Right, this is going to be another episode of Thorinquiry, and I have a return guest for this one, which is quite rare for my channel, and it is going to be TeeBee, world famous drum and bass DJ and producer, obviously most famously for the last 10 plus years, part of Calyx and TeeBee. Actually, let's just start there, TeeBee, because the obvious thing I want to get out the way right at the beginning is I don't want it to be the FAQ of like, what happened to you with Calyx? Like, oh, is there going to be another album? Like, did you not like each other anymore? I will just set the table like this. One thing when I was young is, like a lot of fans of music, I had the same sort of thinking. Like, I'll give you an example. I always wanted the Smiths to get back together, and then I was a fan of Oasis, then they broke up and so. And one thing I had to learn, I think it's something that comes with age, is there's actually something a bit immature about that, because what you really mean is you just want them to go back in time and make the first albums that were super awesome, that you really loved, even though, by the way, those albums already exist. And one thing I realized from listening to interviews with actual musicians who would be asked this thing in every interview, and they knew they would be for the next 10 years too, is the real message they were all trying to say was, it's like certain relationships in life. Sometimes it's awesome for a certain period of your time, or when you're both in the same place, but over time, people change, the situation changes. Sometimes you want to go do something else. There's nothing sinister about that. It doesn't have to be anything weird. What would you say let's just knock it on the head immediately. What would TeeBee say about why did Calyx and TeeBee last so long, and then why is it gone for now?
It lasted so long because we kind of had a mission, and we wanted to do something that we knew the work ethic of the two of us could accomplish. And also the differences in musical backgrounds and musical ideologies was a good match. And Calyx and TeeBee was friends first. You know, like we were real good friends for years before.
You said you met for like 10 years or something before the first tracks or something like that, right?
Not quite 10, but like a good 6.
Right.
And it's like, and it was a really good friendship. And I always kind of had this thing about like, do I want to compromise that for you know? But
Sure.
It just became a thing, and we started out, you know, full of, how should I say, like just like drive, like something to prove, right? Like let's have a go, like let's have fun with it, and we did until it wasn't, and ultimately I'm a man of my word, and life happens, you know. I understand now these rock bands but you know, full disclosure, like that's my friend. Like I wish him all the best, and like I am shouting for him whatever he wants to do. That's on him. There is no like ill will from me towards him or anyone else for that matter. So like full disclosure, there's no drama around it. But like, come on, man, 4 albums.
It's a lot. You did a lot of tracks together, yeah.
From 2000 and pretty much from, you know, 2005 until 2022 exclusively with someone else. I mean, man, I know him better than I know myself. And it's like, ultimately, that's the thing as well. When you tour with someone and you're stuck together in these situations all the time where it's like it's unnatural to be that close to someone for that long, to be that tired, to travel that many places.
Sure.
And then, you know, like we never sat together on a plane because, like, come on, let's draw the line somewhere.
Sure, you know of course, yeah.
And it's like, it's like all of that is something that no one ever tells you, or like no one ever knows what's going to be. And you know, full disclosure, I kind of, I don't really like to cause a fuss unless it's really called for. So that's my Achilles heel. So I tend to be too patient, and also just, you know, trying to see the big picture to the point where the picture disappears entirely.
Right.
And ultimately, I made myself too small too many times. So you set a precedence, right? Doing so in terms of what you will tolerate, or like what aligns with you. And that's not someone else's fault. That is basically me realizing that, you know what, in order to be happy, or like to be the way I need to be, I got to give a clearer message about the things that, you know, I'm kind of suppressing here. And because, you know, we never argued in the studio. There was never any argument about music, this, that, and that. And even though, you know, we had this rule that if both of us went into it, we weren't going to finish it. But, you know, that's a fucking fantasy in itself.
Sure.
So that became something else entirely, you know, like the music making process of Calyx and TeeBee became like what it sounds like at times, like to serve a purpose, to get a reaction, to, you know, fill a certain demograph. And when you tour as elaborate as we did as well, you kind of lose touch with the grassroots of it all. And you realize that you're kind of just clinging onto your position, and these young kids are at home just making bangers that are taking the culture somewhere else, and all of a sudden you're there and everything's changed. And I think when the change came, and we both kind of understood that it's reinvention time, that's when it got difficult. And that's when I was done, because my creativity isn't really something that should be placed in a partnership. Well, I love working in partnership with people, but it definitely took me a long time after even getting out of it where I found what I was looking for. And it's crazy because Larry's a brilliant musician. He plays 5 instruments. And he's got perfect pitch. So I'll be doing something and that string needs to go down 12% in pitch. And, you know, I will hear it eventually, but like not like he would, right? So automatically then what the subconscious do to you is a fucked up thing. It's like, okay, so I'm looking at this relationship with Calyx and TeeBee. Now, I was always really musical, but for some reason, I just kind of wanted to do drums and bass and moods. And like whatever musical bits, I just say, Larry, we need, you know, what do you think? Should we put something on here, there, like sample?
Oh, he became that part and you were more the engineer, right?
No, right. Well, not really. Like loads of the things like musically I made, but like when it came to like doing the music,
it sounds like you carved out a space in your mind for him to do part of it, though, right? So you kind of need him in a way.
I did, but like what we started doing, because that didn't really work for me. I noticed that quickly, was we stopped working together in the studio. We basically started ideas separate. And then when we got the ideas to a certain point, we swapped projects. And you know, I'm not easy to work with. Like, you know, you might have made something you're proud of, but if the transient on your snare drum isn't what I want, I'm going to replace it. If the fucking melody is great, but the sound isn't right, I'm going to replace it. And I just do that because I can't not do that. Then I would be lying. And if I'm working on something that doesn't resonate with me the way it should, I don't want to work on it. And it's like, this isn't about fucking, you know, doing a dead office job. It's about literally my passion and like my highest calling.
Sure.
Like to understand sound in every way, shape and form has made me so well equipped for everything else in life. Even when it comes down to like human anatomy and like, you know, nature. And it's like, when you go to that level with it, it becomes, you know, I won't say religion because that's a mental illness. I will say, basically, just for me, it's my highest truth, and it just aligns with what I care about. And it might not be much to some, but everything resonates. Every single thing has a vibration, even though the human mind is limited to a certain range of hearing. That doesn't mean we can't send frequency out to an endless scope going upwards in pitch, you know? And it's like, when it comes to, for instance, the breakthrough in medicine, you know, you can fucking break down cancer cells with the right sound manipulation devices. And you've got to reach a frequency of like well over the 100,000s. And the only way they proved this was by literally clicking from frequency to frequency to frequency until they ended up with the results where they actually killed more than 40% of cancer cells without even opening anyone up. And it's like, those things I think have become, you know, you always hear music's healing, but you never really understand that there's so much more to that truth. And like the technology available right now, I mean, I know it's going to sound like a conspiracy theory, but it isn't. It's like a lot of these people building these sort of sound healing devices have been silenced. Like YouTube channels have disappeared.
Sure. Well, I
Like, you
can
can't
tell you
find it.
one thing maybe people, if they've done a little bit of conspiracy research, might know is like one of the things of the ancient world before a lot of modern tech was absolutely things like bells and things like
Yeah.
that. Those were considered healing components as well. It wasn't just for the sound, you know, you were doing it because of the effect it had on the body and the consciousness.
I mean, yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm not going to get too deep on this, but there's a reason they took all the bells away after the Second World War, and
Sure.
that's after they set the new tuning to 440. And if a C from 4 to 440 from 432, now it might not seem as much of a discrepancy, but if you play that sound back on, where you can see the actual vibration of the sound, you do get a certain image on 440, but it stands still, while on 432 it rotates.
Right.
So basically what you're talking about is life or no life in that instance. So it's like ultimately you get to see the picture, but it's just.
By the way, isn't that a perfect metaphor for what people think? I'm sure you have a similar perspective that's sort of gone wrong with music, right? At the beginning, it was very alive, had passion, had soul. And even though it might look similar, like you say, it doesn't seem it's that much off. It's only tweaked a little bit. There's something a bit flat about it. It's a bit just surface level, even if it almost gets close to what it was before.
100%. And it's like, that's why these old records are important too. Like some of the great albums of musical history. And not just that, but like classical music. Like I've gone through all the greats, and it's like, with an orchestra, with that tuning, like it is fucking medicine, man.
Yes.
Like it's medicine for the soul.
There's a reason that endures.
Yeah, and also, words and spells. So ultimately, I never listen to lyrics in songs. Obviously, we wrote some, and we try to make it mean, leave some sort of debate for, interpretation and whatnot.
Okay.
It wasn't just like blatant, but it's like I'm not into words really in music. Even though I say that, I now have the vocalist I'm most excited with working with. So it's slightly different with him, but in general, like TeeBee has never really. I didn't listen to the words. I listened to what was behind it, and I think is a thing as well, because I remember meeting. It's not too long actually, the head of Columbia in London, at Columbia Records, and his view of music is this: you have songs, and then you have like the other stuff, and he's not interested in the other stuff.
Oh wow! Right.
Yeah.
That's a bit dark. Okay.
Yeah, but think about it. He's a businessman, so ultimately,
Sure.
like, what do you want? You want it's like those nuggets from Michael Jackson. Even there's a few studio bits that you can actually see online where he's actually revealing who he is, and he's basically goes on about it's got to be a mantra. It's got to be a mantra that sort of sticks with you, that sort of grabs you and pulls you in, and then it's up to you as a human what you want to do with the mantra. And ultimately, that's what music is. It's like it's used in every ritual when it comes to, enlightenment and like cleansing. It's for ancient histories, and it's like, it's just the one thing that everyone except my old Norwegian teacher understands, because to him, music was only sound.
Right.
Sorry, noise.
Oh, okay.
Only the person I've ever met that has said that, and I think, like, for me, it's like. All of these years, Duncan, has felt like practice, because the difference between what I'm doing now and then what an electronic artist would do 20 years ago, like what most people do, is I do everything. I do absolutely everything myself. And I've taken all the steps and measures to like literally be as truthful to myself doing this as I can. So I'm an engineer, producer, I'm everything. I'm like literally everything. And by becoming that, I've realized I can't be nothing when it comes to the promo side, admin side.
Right.
Like all of that shit.
It takes something from you to do that.
Forget about it. I'm incapable, mate. Like
right.
I've got about, I do not know how much money I've got. It's outstanding. All I need to do is send an invoice. Ain't happening, mate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't want money. But yeah, I just don't do it if I'm not interested. If it's not my highest tree, I just don't do it. So like my wife has now taken over, obviously, a large part of those things, and my label has taken everything social media, handling that. They're handling that. I'm not even on there at the moment. I'm so honestly, Duncan, I feel so different. Like just literally trying to do the hermit thing, just like lock myself.
Let me tie this back in. I can see a way we can get back in. So when I started with the Calyx and TeeBee, which was obviously the big, like, this is the box office, like we're going for radio, we're doing the big gigs, we're doing the singles, you know, you're reaching for the heights of what the industry seems to offer. As you said, there's two components I was thinking of when you were talking there. One is, as much as collaboration can be awesome, because as you say, you can fill in the blanks for each other, or they can do something that takes something you did and turns it, or you play off something they did. Obviously, a downside of collaboration is, like you say, you've got to agree. It's got to be the overlap between the two of you. So if you have something really awesome, but it's just really specific to you and it's not what they're feeling, then it's probably going to go on the scrap heap, or it goes in the bank, or it just gets vaulted. It never comes out. I mean, I get the sense, I mean, you can tell from the way you're talking now, you have more of the sort of auteur film director thing of like, you have to have ultimate control. If you do that, that's how you're going to get the purest TeeBee sort of vision. So to me, it also sounds like you were just ready to go back to being a solo act.
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head without even thinking about it. You said pictures, and I've never had a thought that is a word. I only think in pictures and moving image. I never ever talk to myself in my head. I watch stuff, and that I thought it was something everyone did until my wife told me literally like a year ago it's not the case. I've never even raised a question.
Right.
And it's like, you know, goes to show after recent findings that, of course it's like that. And you couldn't be more right. It's like, I have to, because it's not like it's not even an ego thing. It's like I have this, there's something in me that only can be scratched by doing that. And it's not even, I don't even care what anyone thinks about it. It's just about how do I level up? And if I don't do that every day in one area of my life, I'm not happy, because like the last thing I want, and you know, the last thing that's even on my mind as I'm approaching 50 years old is to waste my time. Like, why would I do that? I mean, there's so much to grasp onto. Why do you want to put, to sit me down and like, watch something mindless? I just can't do it, Duncan. It's like,
bro, shall I tell you something crazy? Think about this crazy synchronicity. Your last album before this was called The Legacy.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking about now, clearly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, that has become the very driving force that I needed to find to become the very best version of me. It does help, and I got to give her full credit. Like, I have the support I have at home at the moment, Duncan, is, imagine this, for someone who's always had to fight in his relationships because I'm so fucking obsessed with this shit. Right, so I might not come home for 3 days.
Fucking hell.
I live 10 minutes away, Duncan.
Right.
I live 10 minutes away. So what she does, she'll come with the foods, make sure I get the conversations and the massages, make sure she brings me clothes, because, you know, I got all the facilities down in the house. I can shower, hair, everything. And every time I get in that moment, like, you know, she observed what happened the first time because it was a new experience, and I came out with something brilliant. So that became her association with when I do that. It's like, wow, you are living your highest truth. You're really trying your hardest. And wow, look what happens if you have the support and framework. Like, to the point, I'm not even answering the phone, mate. I'm just like, no, forget about it. I'm just going in. Like, what is this? Let's run this angle. And it has consistently been like that throughout. And every time I ask her, listen, this is a bit much. And she'll come down here. She'll bring, and you know, and she'll even, sometimes I'll even have her sleep down here for that matter. And it's been so amazing to like, actually, what is, you know, the thing I always protected the most, which is my creativity and that moment with myself, to quietly have someone who looks out for me in that way, just to be a part of it, to like literally like remind me to eat or like serve me the food and do all those things that, you know, the passionate Teebs that thinks he's still 15, you know, is doing, has been life-changing. And it has changed me in every aspect, from, you know, gratefulness to how I am with my son. And it's like, I've always been such a hothead. It's hard for me to sort of like take anyone else's opinion. But she didn't put any opinion on me. She just acted a certain way, and I realized, wow, I got a lot to learn. And it's like ultimately everything's changed after that happened. It's like I've never really had stability, like it's just been me fighting with the world and whatever it is I'm going through at the moment, because I'm so consumed by this that certain things are going to get ignored. That's just how it's always been, and that's when I get in trouble. But it's different now, and it's like I owe it to myself to see what is this really, Duncan? What do I really? And I'm not trying to be cocky or anything. I'm just fucking dead honest. I killed my ego a long time ago, but that doesn't mean I can't be confident.
No, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a couple of angles on this. One is that if you ever actually look into the stories of great artists before the era of like film and modern things in the 20th century, if you go back to the 19th, 18th, 17th, you go back to people who are poets, they're authors, they're fucking the early musicians, like you said, classical musicians. It's actually a classic thing that a lot of them would have been a complete mess without their wife, mate. Actually, their wife tends to be the secretary. As you say, they're the cook, they look after, they take care sometimes of the finances. Some of them even die, mate, and all their work's just a bunch of pages on a floor, and the wife has to put it together and figure out how to get it printed or get it preserved somewhere. Like, I know what you mean. If someone can help take away those elements, you're going to get more purely to kind of the idea, right? I mean, think even in the modern day, you said Michael Jackson. Think about Michael Jackson, Prince, Kubrick. Yeah. The first thing people do is shut themselves off from the world. They don't want to have phone calls all the moment and watching TV news and jingles. Like, you kind of got to block out the noise. Put it this way, it's actually what you said you always did in your music. You subtract. It's not just adding. You take out the unnecessary, right?
Totally, man. I mean, control. I mean, that is I think the word manipulation is being thrown around too much as a negative content. It's simply control the input to change the output. That's manipulation. That's like the essence of like anything, really. Like, you manipulate your own reality to get the best result. If you don't, you're not even playing. You know what I'm saying? It's like ultimately, I'm no NPC, but I live among them. So ultimately,
some of it rubs off, right? Some ideas get in there that are not totally all yours, but they interact with yours.
Yeah, exactly. But like ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about feeling for me. It's like I want to leave my session, or like when a track is finished, it has to make me feel something that only I can make myself feel. Because like I listen to a lot of music and I dissect it. Rarely does it touch me. But the things that do touch me, you know what I mean? But it's like what I'm looking for isn't necessarily happiness or sadness or, like common emotions. I'm after, it has to feel like you're listening to something that could have been sent from 5,000 years ago in the future. But
there's a term, I don't know if you've ever heard this. I think it's just something people came up with, like, as in how they use it. It comes from like a French word. It's called frisson. And it's the idea, essentially, it's the idea of like, the almost obvious example would be when you do hear some amazing piece of orchestral music, you don't think like a pop song, like cool melody, in comes the trumpet. What you do is you feel awe. You feel like, holy shit, like I feel like I'm alive in a different way. It's all the cliches. Time stops. For that moment, surely everyone's feeling this who's listening. There's something transcendent about it, right?
100%. 100%, and that is, I mean, that's the essence, isn't it? But how do you take the human emotional range, right? And then you kind of sit down and you reach a certain point in your life, and most people just deviate back to the music that did the most impression on them because they want to relive that moment.
Yes.
And it's like the people who are so deeply attached to Black Science Labs that they've hated on everything I've done since that.
They just want you to make that album again. Yes.
Exactly, because that was the moment they had around that. So it's not just a record, but it's like their experiences around it. And also to ask an artist or someone creative to stay the same, that's like asking them to go die.
Yeah.
Like you got to like when you found who you are and you have an expression that's you, which I think I found relatively early, like you can kind of hear when it's me, but there's so many ways I've never explored that in. And it's like, ultimately, it's such a privilege to literally just go and like play with my mind all day. It's like, It's like the ultimate self-indulgent thing. I get to create. I get to do what I really want to do, and I'm so grateful for that. But there's one thing they never tell you, and if I had known just the impact and like the battles that you have to go through when you realize that it's just you against you all the time. And if you really want to do it, the system is set up so that you have to adhere to it. I'm talking about the financial system.
Sure.
And it is designed so that true artistry can only survive in the shadow.
Yes.
Of, controlled artistry. And when you do controlled artistry, you're always too tired to do real artistry. And on top of that, if you really want to get there, you've got to kiss the ring. There's no way. You can't. And I see that after as well. It's like, it's just different, unless you feed the machine, unless you are the number on the board. It's not the same. I look at these artists who have pulled their music from these streaming sites and try and live off Bandcamp and Patreon and things like that. And, some pretty prominent people. And ultimately, it makes me sad because they're really, really doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And they're sort of like setting the standard for what we all really should adhere to in a way. And if we all put our foot down right this moment, we know what's right and what's not right. They're basically, the record industry has never made as much money as they did last year, and artists have never been paid less.
Right.
So ultimately, I see these people, they can't even live, mate. Get day jobs again, the fucking, it's just terrible. Like what's happened. And now as well with, venues, restrictions, how Live Nation has taken up anything, how certain agencies with the big rosters are controlling the narrative in terms of money. It's become so corporate that there is nothing rebellious left about it.
Oh, sure.
And it's like when I'm at this big drum and bass festival, playing after this act with a bunch of white boys, from a certain demographic, dressed a certain way, and their manager is trying to block me from walking up the stairs when it's 5 minutes to my set, he's going to have a problem. And ultimately, everyone got to hear it that night. And I've never turned back since, mate. Like I hate what it's become. And I refuse to partake anymore. It's just like when it comes to the actual, what everyone says is so nice, this and that and that. I mean, come on, man. We had a drum and bass re-release of a Sugar Babes song recently. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like I can't even imagine what Goldie would think about that.
Sure.
And it's like let me not moan and let me do. So that's what I'm trying. That's what TeeBee's going to be. I'm just going to. It might not be as frequent of an output, but when I do, it's going to be something that means something to me.
Well, let's go one step further. It also sounds to me like the way you're talking, you don't just want to do something different and go. You also want what you're doing to almost be like you're the equal and opposing force that will overcome the sickness of the industry in some way. What you're going to do now, right?
Yeah, because ultimately, no one can tell me what to do. And like the moment someone else's truth becomes mine, I've lost. I've never listened to what anyone said. What I've already done, they said was impossible. Growing up, I was constantly everyone tried to put a rock or a scissor somewhere. But, it's funny, isn't it? You come back after 20 years abroad and who you thought were your enemies turned out to be some of your biggest fans. Like watching you and like knowing everything that you've done and literally followed it. And like, I kind of won them over, and I won them over because I realized that your shortcomings aren't mine. So whatever you say doesn't apply to me. And ultimately, I have a belief that is just as strong as the fact that I know I exist on this plane right now, so that I can make a difference. I know it. And not just a difference, but yeah, it can be done. And I refuse to give up on it. And even if I'm not the one who realized how it should be done, or to which capacity it should be done, trust me, every last bit of information or where I got to where I got to will be there.
Right.
The fun's not in the fucking center of the crowd. The fun's not out in the sunshine. It's in the fucking corners where no one dares to go. And ultimately, music is such an individual expression. And with the unlimited world of combining this human form with the digital world in the music making process and the tools that are available, people say things, everything's been done, right? Trust me. No one's fucking trying hard enough because everything has not been done.
Sure.
Because right now we have the tools to take our pity concept of what the human mind should be, start carving away at your own construct and the limitations, and like, just for a day, be free in yourself. See what the mind can do. Like, take the wrongs and right out of yourself, as long as you don't act on it, right? And like, see what it does to you. Like, what are the nuances I'm missing? Like, where are the secrets? You know, like, where, you know, let me go find some secrets and I'll be back with you.
Sure. By the way, along those lines as well, another thing for me is when you're trying to create like a pure sound and you're trying to get deep into what you're doing in that sense, like it sounds like you couldn't have done this, even though you were stuck in the Matrix or whatever, doing the commercial thing. You also wouldn't have been able to make some of this music you want to make now 10, 15 years ago. I mean, as you say, now you can do everything. Now you've studied not just how the hardware works and the plugin works, but you know the science of what it's doing. And then you also know, as a result, where to look, where no one's even thought. Like the guy who designed the piece of hardware didn't intend it to be that. So another thing is, like, now when you're trying to translate that idea, I mean, if people don't know, if you've never been a creative person, the best piece of art, oftentimes the artist is still like, I still didn't quite get it though. There was still a bit in there I couldn't quite express. I didn't know how to get it out. It sounds like you've got the toolkit and the arsenal, as it were, the weapons and the surgical items that you need to get it out now.
Beyond that, it's come to the point where I actually want to prove another point. And that's because everyone looks to music as a young person's game. All we see is young people. And ultimately, as you grow older, you realize there's not much to fucking talk about with a young person. And then when you start realizing that the music industry is just that, and nothing is what it seems, the reason is young people is because they can be easily manipulated.
Sure.
They're passionate. You know, they'll sign things they wouldn't in order to just, you know, get that shot. They haven't got the experience, and it's basically just control so that the money will keep flowing. And the moment you start a post or whatever, and, you know, you want a bit of what's yours, you either get killed or, you know, you end up being irrelevant because they just close the machine down on you. And it's like the old regime is dying, and, you know, every record label was turned into a data company. And ultimately, you know, when a record label fires their entire promotional division and then hires 10 more people for TikTok only, then you kind of realize that at the moment we are fucked. And it's like, those are the moments where, you know, I could have, you know, I've had so many offers to go and do, like, for instance, some of these, one of the major movie companies have been in me 4 times up until 2017. And every time they upped, you know, they just want me to come to be an engineer. That's it. They want me to work 3 days a week for them because, you know, I mean, whether you like my music or not, you will know that the execution's sick.
Sure.
And ultimately, that's like something that's known. And obviously the industry's going to know that. And I have friends in those industries as well. And, you know, I could have settled for 550 grand a year, a free house, a maid, a chef, 3 work days, and then 2 rest days, because you have to rest your ears. That's part of the thing. So that would mean I would be confined to only being allowed to make music on the weekends that I was truly passionate about. And the last contract I got offered was elaborate. But it's like, fuck money, man. It's like, money's fake anyway. And it's like, oh, yes, we all need it, but that's not why I do this. That's not why it's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with like being, like talking about it even, Duncan, you know? But it's like, I'm at a point now where I can choose who I want to talk to. I don't say things, like my meanings are actually mine. You know, I'm not trying to be something I'm not. And I think that if you can be that way and you can portray yourself that way and you can allow yourself to fit outside the norm, to show people that, you know what, I don't have to be a robot and be uncontroversial. You know, I can actually have a stand, I can have a spine, I can do these things, as long as you do it without being a fucking dick. And also, that you can back up what you stand for, and that you allow other people to breathe and for their meanings to be whatever it is, because their truth ain't mine. And still come with it. And still be relevant at a certain age, because you never lost the fucking will to fight for it, because it means so much to you. Then I've left something behind that I'll be proud of. You know what I mean? And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. I just want to be proud of myself, man. I want to see what I can do. And maybe I'm naive. Maybe in 5 years, the AI got so good that I'm replaceable. I just don't think so. You know what I mean? It's like, sure. I just don't think so. And it's I'm also painfully aware of the fact that, I'm 50 years old next year. Even though I'm in great shape, everything is, this year, I feel amazing, and I feel more equipped than ever, really. I am painfully aware that in 20 years' time, my mindset will maybe be a little bit different. So I have a new sense of urgency.
Right.
And that sense of urgency has, again, the amazing of getting a woman in that is like really good at strategizing and like keeping order, has made me, look at how I do things and like, get all the dead weight off and shave time of certain things. And also to not be so fucking self-indulgent all the time, Sometimes if I have the right loop, I will literally start and question myself, and I will marinate that loop literally by not even touching it for like 4 or 5 days. I just like study it, like listen, overtones, undertones, what melodies are hidden, what's this, what's that, to the point where I get sick of it, I ditch it. And it's like, it's funny because, you mentioned all that Calyx and TeeBee time, and, all the music that made it on the Cosmic Carnival. What was that, 14 tracks in total? Well, out of those years on the sideline, I came out with 188 projects. So there was 188 pieces of music to choose from. And I'm not saying these were the best ones, but they were the ones that was telling a cohesive story. And I know the rest is not going to see the light of day. It's just going to be there, and it was practice. And I think that's the kind of fucking levels you got to be willing to go for if you really want to do this the way it can be done. If you want the fame, and if you want to do this and that, get a good ghost producer, get a great PR team, make sure you look good, make sure your socials are all the, the nuances that the teenagers want and the clickbait. If that's your game, play it. But that's not my truth. So
I tell you what, along those lines, when you say it'll never come out, one thing I'll tell you, I'm one of those people who, again, I'm obsessed about things I'm interested in, but I also have a very good memory. And I can tell you from listening to interviews with TeeBee over the years, you're also one of those people where if you've nailed something or you've put something interesting down or it did move you in some way, it's never really going to be gone forever. It's going to be in a pile or a box or mentally on a folder. And at some point in the future, you're going to reach for that. And that sketch or that idea is going to be in something in 2030 or 2037. And actually, this is something we've talked about previously, actually off air, which is some of the best musical concepts really are timeless. The tech comes and goes, but there's something about the soulful nature of hitting something with a track that, I mean, essentially no one could guess what time that comes from because it doesn't come from a time.
Absolutely. And that's I say that, but I'm talking about when a track reaches a certain point, it's like it has its identity in a sense. And if the identity don't align with mine at that time, there might be aspects of it that align later. But so nothing really gets lost. It goes into, well, let me just quickly have a look. Like
you're a hoarder for people who don't know. You don't just delete stuff. It's always somewhere, right?
No. I'm just going in my finished breaks folder right now from, we're talking starting in 1993. The current number is...
Of course, TeeBee still has his 1993 breaks.
I have everything, mate. Never lost a thing.
Love it.
16,431 breaks. So that's my breaks. Like that's stuff that, either, I've started off with a sample as I did way back or like constructed things. And the way I make music, I think is different from everyone else because I separate entirely the creative process with the actual music making. What I do is the first 2 months of the year, I historically always block off and I only work on single elements. Like, let's say I'll do a string section. I'll do it devoid of anything else related to it. I'll just do it to the best of my ability and put my sole focus on that. And then I'll park it. I'll keylog it, tempo log it, and I'll park it and I'll forget about it. And I'll do that and I'll go through. I'll do bass, I'll do fucking drums, I'll do whatever. So after those 2 months, I'm on to the teeth. But here's the kicker. I do it 1 year in advance. So anything I'm working on that I did the start of this year, I ain't listening to again until next year. A lot of it I will forget. And that is how I keep it fun. So I have a pile, like a treasure chest that's going to be my year. And it all comes down to me the year before of how good my year was. Because, you know, it's eye against eye type scenario. And it's like doing it that way, it's kind of like, it's become this game I do with myself. And now you got to remember there's so much leftovers, right? Because I do this, I don't go back, I just leave it. And when Crazy and Palmer was over, the week before they came, I went into that pile I never go into. All the old hard drives, the stuff that's not even on fucking Dropbox or backed up. I started going through. And I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I do this a lot, mate. And I had no idea like how much I actually do it until I started realizing that if I never make anything ever from scratch again for the rest of my life, I have 4 lifetimes worth of things to dig into that I still would go into. And some of it surprises me and it takes me back to moments where it's like, wow, I remember now that I hear it back, but I don't think like this anymore. And then, you know, like that is the exciting bit.
It's like you're collabing with yourself from the past.
Yes, that's what I'm doing. And also my old stuff becomes someone else's new stuff. So when Crazy and Palmer's here, I always do this little thing. I do a massive folder ready for them. That's just like stuff it's like Lego. You know, you just can start plug and play. And it's always funny to see what they reach for because it's never what I would put together. And that's fascinating. And you know, so they were here in in December for 9 days, and we did actually 9 new tracks. And it was so different than what I thought it was. And I really enjoyed it because it was like my engineering at the bottom of it, but just placed in so it was like my control, but they were actually allowed to be fully, you know, creative with it. And I can't wait for more of that. So that's something I'm realizing as well, that I enjoy as much, actually maybe more, Duncan, than actually creating a piece of music is like getting into the parts of it. Like,
sure.
I think it's because like I really get to hone in on what it is. I get to visualize every waveform. I get to,
I mean, that is your craft. Like, people think of music as just the idea. I can tell you I do the same thing when I do writing. Like, the joke is my peers who've done it a lot, like just a few years, and I've done it 20 years, I would tell them, oh, the secret is this, mate. An idea is nothing. Anyone can have an idea. The question is, what do you do when you get the idea and you sit down and go, right, I'm now going to use writing techniques and try and construct something with that and play with it and build it into something more. And that, I know what you mean. The pleasure really is in like the process, right?
And that is the key, because everyone's looking at the fucking hierarchy and getting to the top without realizing that the privilege is the journey.
Yes.
And ultimately, the moment you realize that, time doesn't exist anymore because you are living after your purpose. And then, you know, why would you rush?
There's also euphoria to it, right? It feels amazing and incredibly satisfying to do this.
And even more so the older I get, because we all know that, you know, in your teens you want to fit in, or, you know, you don't. Like, I didn't really want to, but I kind of had to. And then your 20s, you're kind of a mess, and in your 30s, you're trying to find some sort of fucking coherence, and then, you know, you kind of land, but you don't. And then, you know, from my own personal experience, like, I had to question everything in my 40s, and then you suddenly realize, shit, my parents, I need to talk to my dad. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
It's like there's certain things that only time can teach you, and that is.
Seems like that's also really another theme. I mean, not only like your parents, but like in your old breaks, you've also literally gone back to Norway. You kind of like reconnecting with what made TeeBee in the first place.
And going back to Norway was a key part of everything, because I've been everywhere. I've lived abroad multiple years, but something about the north.
There's nothing like home, is there, mate?
No, there's something about the north is the weather, is the climate, is the calmness, is the fact that yeah, there's loads of things wrong here, but it's a good life. It's safe, and it's like I have Byrknes, which, the island where my dad grew up, where there's still only 250 people live there, and it's like I have a beautiful piece of land right by, which I'm going to start building on this summer, and I'm going to build a studio and sort of a house out there on the grounds where my dad grew up, right in front of the North Sea. There's one shop on that island and one retirement home that serves as a hospital if you need it. And there's no police, there's nothing. You got to take 2 ferries to even get there. And it's like, that is really appealing to me at the moment. And it's like, I can't wait to do that. And I don't think there's too many countries left who can actually do that the way you can do it here. And I'm looking at the world, I'm looking at all the stress. Obviously, my wife's American, so you got to keep an eye on that. She's got, she's in the stock market, all kinds of things, and it's like, that is a cesspit that's going to blow. And ultimately, look at global politics, all of these things. It's like everything's so fucking depressing and dooming and glooming. And then you're realizing, well, it's always been that way. And you can choose whether you pay attention to it or not. Of course, when injustice hits the fan, you have a choice to make. But when it comes to who he said, she said, and whatever control, I don't give a fuck about you say anyway. You tell me one thing, whether I do it or not, that's not up to you. And it's like, will I take the consequences of that if they come after me? Sure. Already happened a few times, but that doesn't mean I'm going to comply. So at the end of the day, there's 2 things that are super important to me. One of them is to stay true to myself, because I realize if I don't, I'm not loving myself. If I'm not loving myself, I get fucking anxious. And if I get anxious, I can't act on my highest truth, because it overrides everything. And by simply being honest with myself in every situation, hard or not, I've kind of had a sort of growth that no one told me about, or even, I've never been into like self-help gurus and none of that shit. Never, ever. And I never read a book about like becoming something I want to be or anything. I kind of just trip and fall over and, patch up. And
you got to find your own way, right? I'll give you a great line. There's a line that they had in the Grail quests of the medieval era, where people had this like idea that you had to search for this holy Grail that would change everything. And one of the cool lines they had was, they said that when these knights of King Arthur set off to find the holy Grail, there's a line that goes like this. It goes like, each knight went to the area in the forest that was the darkest, where nobody had gone before and nobody had cut a way, and he had cut his own way through there. And it's the idea that like, you can't just find the best path that the other guy went on before you and go, yeah, let's go down there. You have to kind of find the way that only is your way.
Oh, mate, listen, this is such a great line, and it brings my mind to probably my like the best story I have, in a sense, because it's something I swore to myself I wouldn't tell until my folks were passed. But ultimately, I don't care at this point. And it's like, so when I got into psychedelics the first time around, I was spiked. I was before that I was straight edge completely. Like, X's on my wrist a lot. Just that shit's like, I don't need that. I need to. I got drunk once because everyone got drunk, and I ended up calling my father to come pick me up because a girl who I know is a 2 was a 10, and that's terrifying. Plus, I was in a state where I couldn't fight, and like for someone who's
always a bit on edge,
Yeah, always on edge, and also, like loads of history with martial arts is like it's embedded in me. And
oh,
like,
right.
If I can't defend myself or like have a parameter, I'm not comfortable.
Yes.
Now with psychedelics, it was different. It was like I was reaching levels of clarity that I didn't know existed. I got spiked with acid on a school trip to Hastings, and that got me super curious. So I really delved into it, and like Black Science Labs wouldn't have been born without that. But like what happened was, in my search for it, I didn't search to get fucked. It wasn't about getting fucked up. It was like the world made sense when I reached the in-between stages on LSD where it just gets clear. And my mind was calm for the first time, and I felt normal. I was like, wow, this is what normal people must feel like. I obviously realized no one's normal, but like,
Sure.
but like, so I studied it, and I realized the highest you can get, or like, the ultimate sort of clarity is if you're on like what the brain can handle in terms of dosage, and then you reach a certain peak where, you can only go one way, and it's to the depths of the darker parts of you, right?
Yes.
And you have a bad trip on the best acid. That's the most profound, intense, human experience, for the people who's gone through it. So I desperately wanted to achieve that because for some reason I thought there was something there for me. So I had it all planned out, and this is the last time I ever did anything. So I had it all planned out, and I picked. There's this lake on top of this mountain here in Byrknes. You get access by foot. It takes about 45 minutes to get up, and allegedly, this woman from an orphanage drowned 50 children there, like hundreds of years ago. So it's like a place that exuberates a certain.
Right, it's got an ominous vibe, I'm guessing. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm out of my mind, like literally just navigating, and just like I'm like ready for this. And to cut a long story short, it starts raining, and I'm screaming at the sky as burning arrows is shooting down at me from above, and I'm screaming, "Is this all you got?" Put my backpack on, walk home. That was it. I know I can't reach it. I can't break. I can't break. I just can't. I don't know how. I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to break. It'll be the death of me. But hey, I don't know how to fucking break. And that's because my purpose is completely aligned with who I am. And like, I'm actually doing what I really want to do, like all the time. And it's such a privilege. And I look at the people around me who are in the mindless jobs and my friends who I've grown up with. And it's like, I just don't have anything in common with you guys anymore. And I think one of the hardest truths you got to pull yourself through as a human being is to not people please, and to also kind of agree with yourself that friendship ends and it's okay. And it's like, like if you want, if you're on search for something that, pretentious still, but not really, that's like greater than who you are. And, and you think in terms of energy and vibration and just, like, what are you really leaving behind? Like, it's not a mundane existence. It's powerful, and your footprints are going to be everywhere. And I think that my ideology and look on what I do, I don't see it as important at all. I don't. But it's my thing, and I love it. And I'm just going to keep doing this because I honestly don't know where it's going to end up, but I'm very excited about it. And the proof is in the sketches I've laid down, because I've deviated completely from TeeBee. There's like no tempo restriction anymore, like on anything. I'm not staying in the formula. I've spent 9 months trying to rediscover who I am by doing the opposite of like what the first thing that comes to mind, pretty much. And I've just discovered that I'm just starting out. It's like there's 3 different projects that are all different musically, but there's like a one red line that ties it together, and that is the execution. And that's it.
One thing I will say, this is a little bit of a shift, but you'll see where thematically it ties in, is I actually did used to think, because I was really, really into the sort of 2000s, 2005 era of drum and bass, and I've still listened to a lot of the same artists since. There's plenty of new subgenres that are interesting and people I find cool, and I listen to if I'm in the gym or if I'm doing some research or something. But I've always felt like, am I crazy, or is there something about that early era that I just can't quite get elsewhere, or sometimes even some of the same people don't? I mean, the joke is, for the last like 10 years, I even used to say to people, why does every fucking bass line sound like a car revving up? Like everything has this weird like symmetry to it, whereas before everyone's bass line was their signature. It was unique. It was like a heartbeat. And no one had the same bass line. And one of the things it's made me think about is I actually do feel like you can see the seeds of the journey you're talking about even long before you got to this point. Like, I'll give you an example. If I look at the Calyx and TeeBee albums, they do look like the first 3 go more and more commercial, but then suddenly out of nowhere, if no one was following your interviews and stuff like that, if they just came along and found the Plates album, they'd be like, what is this? Like, this is like you're trying to jump back 20 years and you're trying to sort of recreate something or get back to what it was, that type of music. Am I right?
I mean, I'm no fool, so ultimately there's an agenda there, and that's to shape the perception and the understanding of all these Calyx and TeeBee fans that know nothing about TeeBee, that there's another side to this music that wasn't exposed. So I did that deliberately to shift it back to my truth, because it went too far. And yeah, you're totally right. That's why it's called Plex. It's back to what we both loved. And Larry was in it too, you know, wanted to do more underground stuff, but we still did that vocal thing though, didn't we?
Sure.
And it was like, and there's another track on there that shouldn't be on there, but it's like a track like, you know, like fucking, what's that one? Actually, there's so many tracks, mate. I keep forgetting this. Let's have a look. Let's just get that place up and going. Mind at Ease. Like Mind at Ease and like Warehouse Days. Or even Look to the Skies. It's like that's the truth.
Bro, I remember when we did our first interview, afterwards you sent me a couple of tracks, and one of them was just like a normal Calyx and TeeBee track. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then you sent me that exact track, The Look to the Sky. I remember thinking like, this must be like some old unreleased shit that you just never go around to. And it was your next fucking single, bro, like, or whatever. I was like, holy shit, this is a change in direction.
Yeah. So it's like just put that little seed in there and see how it performs, right? And like, because, you know, obviously market research is a large part of being successful. And you've got to know your demographic. And if your demographic doesn't exist, then how do you create it, you know? And ultimately, all of that was like, also seeing in hindsight, it's like, yeah, this is album that has performed the weakest out of all of our albums. That's because it's the realest.
Right.
And it was also, it was very conscious to sort of like take that route, because the sad truth, well, not the sad truth. The good thing is I've reached this point where I have so much catalog and, you know, subtitles as well. It's like, it does generate, right? And it's like, it's not generating, you know, a tremendous amount, but it's enough to live. And ultimately, that's all I've ever wanted. It's just to fucking live. If my bills are paid, my wife's happy, I got food on the table, I don't have to worry about actual existing, I'm good. You know, and I realized that for most people, it's like, to exist, you have to do a lot of shit you don't want to do. And
of course, yeah.
Yeah, and that's
but it is weird. Even though you were making the bigger picture of how the industry is and stuff, some of it, the genius of how they've designed the system is, as you say, they make you go to war with yourself. Like, they make you do the little compromise to keep the wolf from the door, to keep the bills paid, to keep the heating on, to feel like you're secure for your family. Like, half of that's inside your own mind. It's not a guy just telling you every day.
Well, mate, it's so elaborate, and the game, and it's so clever. And nothing is left to chance. It's like, you cannot win. Like, you can either, you know, join forces and accept what it is, if you want to achieve that thing of fame and blah, 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 but you can't do it without them. And also, there's nothing real about popular music. Not a single thing. Like, people don't even know, but some of the biggest bands in history were designed.
Oh, absolutely. And social engineering, yeah.
You know, like the Beatles. Beatles wasn't a band. It was a design. Yes. You know, the fucking...
Well, mate, it was coming out of all those like think tank type people in London and all big social control shit. Yeah, absolutely. It's presented as grassroots, but it just isn't. I know what you mean.
They had 50 psychiatrists hired for their first album. You know, it's basically like this. And this is something I understood as well. And it's always been part of my thinking. It's like, in order to get something, when it comes to music, and especially music, or like you can apply it to anything. It's like, if you can find the essence of why that one thing ticks, or why that one thing resonates with so many people, and you start doing that by going through, you know, popular things, and you find the common denominator, and then you do a slight different take on it. That's what they've done since the dawn of commercial music. And it never fails. And every 20th year, you rehash the melodies, because a good melody is going to feel the same way. Just put some new shoes on it, and then the generation that consumed it is going to forget it. And music is such an incredible passion for so many of us. And it's such a massive paradox that the forces behind it and the industry of it is simply manipulation, control, and, to extort you from your finances, and not even that, but even paint you like even use it for like social restructuring.
Yeah.
Like a game like a band like Coldplay, which I fucking loathe, by the way. It's like, yeah, by all means, there's some fucking nice little melodies in there, but there's an agenda behind the music.
Sure.
Like, look at what they represent. And it's like hip hop, hip hop got diluted before it even had a chance.
Yes. By the way, the Coldplay angle is good as well, because think about how the industry uses the songs even after they've done it. They put it over every advert that stirs a feeling, every big sporting moment's associated with it. It's like they make it the soundtrack of your life, even if you didn't choose it to be.
Force it down your throat.
Yes.
And it's like, it's funny because obviously I follow hip hop quite a lot still. And it was such a big part of my early days and the breaks and all that shit. But it's like Noisia has this podcast, Noisia from Capone and Noisia, called Drink Champ.
Yeah.
Which still, it's a fucking, obviously sponsored by alcohol, like every alcohol brand there is, and this, that, and that. But they're having some real conversations.
It's pretty raw, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they're having some real conversations. And I'll never forget what Noisia said. Because, he was on his way up and he had that track called Super Thug. And he was really hot at the moment, like when that came out. And, all the big labels were lining up. And then he said on his podcast, and I was shocked that he would say it. He said, yeah, I got offered the opportunities. Go left, go right, or go straight. And he said, I went straight. And I haven't had a hit since.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's how fucking deep the game is. Well, if you really want to play at the highest level, that's kind of like what you're up against. So to bring myself full circle to the conversation that we had earlier on, maybe, about, these new projects that I've got with Quayson Palmer as Greater Than, and with my other car, Paul, with that project actually called Tapes, which is TeeBee and Paul's entertainment service.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And then, but like with the Greater Than thing it's like we can do that shit. Like we can do that shit, and we can do it in a way that's still dope. And the thing is, the only thing that would stop us from achieving what we need to achieve is money. And that's why I'm with the people I'm with at the moment, because they wholeheartedly believe in what I'm trying to do. And the bags are open. So like it's going to happen, basically, because there's got to be a way to take them on. You can't take them on unless you've got the money. Like we've even looking in, we've gone so far, Duncan. We've been looking into buying playlists, and it's like once you get into that world, you realize, holy shit, it's so much darker than you think. And like the playlist placement now has become people's personal curators. Even my wife, I had to fucking like don't say, hey Siri, play what I like, play music I like. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, you're a slave to your algorithm. No wonder all this shit music comes up. So I'm like, right, we're going to do this right. And she started doing it, to be fair, and now everything's changed. And she's also discovered, because, my wife also, she worked for Apple for fucking 8 years. So she was in that world, which is she's been to Cupertino, all that. She met Steve Jobs and all that. And she's been in that world, and that world is like disguised itself as like, inclusivity, gender respectful, can't date in the workplace. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, that is like brilliant control for your slavery to optimize your workers. And it's easy for someone on the outside that's never been a part of that, never wants to be a part of that, but also don't have the mindset of that, to sort of come with a different angle on it. And it's like, I came into the music industry thinking that it was about passion and, respect and creation and to be great. It fucking isn't. It never was. That's what they're trying to stop you from doing. they're just trying to control every facet of it. And if something gets big or popular, they will dilute it until there's nothing left.
Yes.
Because they know the power of it. They know the power of it. And that is the thing, is the power of it. As long as we collectively have to go and get our music distributed through the same company that, you know, wants to build weapons and, you know, all this other shit that I'm not even going to get into, we just ain't going to get there. Like music was taken from us so long ago. It's stolen. They've taken this. It's premeditated. They've already done it. It's like there's nothing to do about it. But that doesn't mean that within any sort of, you know, within any whatever constant, there's always going to be some fluctuation. That's just the law of things, you know. Like it has to be. An action has a reaction, and I feel now that there's a lot of kids being very quiet for the right reasons. And the one thing I do think that's missing, and that I'm hoping I can do something with, is to actually have a platform that is, I can't go into too much details, but like that somehow sustains itself without the actual, you know, it's not a monetary thing.
Right.
It's like the thing about artists is your real value at the moment is your data. Like, why would you give that away to all these platforms? Like, you ain't getting your data, dude.
Sure.
You know, like it's like that's the key. It's now a data game when it comes to money, because that's where we are. And it's incredible because those playlists and people's laziness and sort of adapt to I mean, these phones. Why do you think the screens get bigger and bigger? It's not so we're going to see each other better. You know, we all know what the fuck it is. We're all addicted to these motherfucking things. So we can't fucking go anywhere out. And they do whatever the fuck they want in terms, you know, like I never opt in for it to listen to anything, but any time I talk about something, the ads show up.
Yep.
And it's the world that we've come so painfully like numb to it all that we just don't give a shit. And ultimately, music has become that. Like, it's just free. It's just there. I fucking spent every penny I had on records growing up. Like, every penny I had. Like, I would buy that before I buy new shoes. You know, it's like...
Sure.
And that now, like, the concept of having to pay for music, I mean, my son is like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yes.
It's free.
By the way, that's part of the genius, though, if you think about it, because if it's all free and you just spam the market with it and it's all this stuff that you've controlled, they'll never find their way to the obscure, cool shit that didn't have their fingers on it. I mean, one thing you're getting to here that I think is really interesting, I hope for people who are on the outside to listen to, is you might think to yourself, if it's so controlled and it's so astroturfed and it's so like intentional with an agenda, then why hire anyone creative anyway? Why not just get someone who'll just, you know, paint by numbers, like you say, they look at the data, you see what hits. But I'll tell you what I've noticed and I've learned, TeeBee, is the machine, the system, the malevolent forces in the world, they actually need good people. They need creative people, because as you're saying, that's why the key word you said there, they don't delete it, they dilute it. There's still what still sells you on an amazing film, an amazing book, an amazing song is something in there was creative, something was pure, something was done not for lust of money or fame. But then what they do is then they get to it and they twist it and they shape it into what they want or to fit their agenda. And so in a weird way, there is this fucked up relationship in the industry between the machine and between the soul, as it were, and the two are intertwined. It's not really just one or the other, is it?
Not at all. And I think that is what's so, because, you know, people, they don't, if you're not really interested in it, it's all going to sound like, when we talk about the music industry or like the entertainment industry as a whole, it sounds like so far-fetched and so fucking different from like what they're selling you. But that's exactly what they're doing. They're selling you one thing and doing an entirely different thing. I mean,
Yes.
look at through history. Look at like bands like TLC. You know, how can you sell 40 million records and owe the record company money?
Sure.
And not just that, but it goes beyond that. It's like, if people think that these rebellious artists just like, you know, kill themselves or, you know, just vanish, it's that's just not how it is. It's dark. It really is dark, and we've lost some of our greatest musicians as a result. I mean, Michael Jackson bought, the Beatles catalog because Paul McCartney was a dick to his face. So ultimately, that means that he controlled assets that was worth more than the record label he was signed on. And this is all documented, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that point, he's about to get on a flight. He basically said that he got told, if you don't sell the rights back for these Beatles records, by the time you land in Miami, you're going to be fucking, your career's done. That's exactly what happened. He lands, he's a pedophile. And Prince, he had, I think, 20 albums or something.
He had loads that were unrecorded, right?
Yeah. But so basically, he wanted, basically there's a budget, right? There's a deduction for like mastering, production, blah, blah, all of that shit. But he did everything, played every instrument, recorded everything in his own home.
Yeah.
He simply wanted a fairer share. That's all he wanted. And that was the end of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. It's like you just can't fuck with it. Like at that level, it's that deep and the control goes that far. And it's also because sound is a manipulator of energy, and that in itself is a powerful statement if you really want to think about it.
Sure.
And ultimately, yeah, they feel like it's. Let's put it this way: the amount of control that they put on it reveals how important it is to try and fight it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because, again, we're not just all individuals. This is what everyone's kids are going to listen to. All your family members are being informed by this. Like I say, it becomes a soundtrack of your life, whether you choose it or not.
And it's like, yeah, I might sound a bit, we've touched upon the darker things of like music in general, or like life in general. But I guess as we grow older, Duncan, as well, and your perspective change, and like
absolutely
a conversation about how to make something or how a gig was, that becomes something you don't want to fucking talk about.
Yes.
And I think as well, going back to what I said about, trying to prove a point about it's not necessarily the young ones that are the relevant ones. Who would you go listen to? Someone who's played the guitar for 2 years or 35 years. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's pretty obvious. But then I'm looking around and I'm trying to look, well, okay, where are those artists? Where are those albums? Where are those albums where like someone worked their whole life to get to a point where it's like, let me I have it in me, like let me combine everything I've ever learned, really think about this, but be critical towards myself and not look at it from an angle of public perception. Because one thing I learned quickly, the quickest way to hate yourself is to care what anyone else thinks.
For sure.
So ultimately, you've got to be a bit delusional, don't you, to do this? Like, you've got to be a bit fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
you got to take a leap of faith.
I mean, you just have to believe in yourself to the point where it's like, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And I think that there's nothing fulfilling of blending in. Not to me. Like, you either go out like a fucking fire in the night, or you can shut the fuck up. Because why else are we here? You know what I mean? I'm not here to just like pass through it. I'm here to fucking cause a ruckus. So I'm I guess I'm too old. I'm not old enough yet to be punk. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I kind of like, I've rediscovered that massively the last 2 years. And it feels good, man. It feels good. I honestly don't give a fuck. Like that is kind of, like, I don't give a fuck unless it's something I care about. And it's not in a sinister way. It's like I don't say I don't give a fuck in terms of in a negative, derogatory way towards whatever it is you're doing. It's just if it doesn't align with what I'm after or like what I'm trying to achieve. And I am always trying to move, as I said, from my highest truth at any given time to the best of my purpose. And That can be fucking selfish, but you know what? That's okay.
By the way, I've got some questions that will lead us into actually some of the music stuff as well. So when you were saying that there, you were like, who would you want to listen to? Someone who's just only started playing a guitar or essentially like a master of it. That even makes me think about the industry because, yeah, that's why it's a young man's game, mate. They want the guy who's just done it a few years and everyone's ears just tuned to something jangly and catchy. But I'll tell you what it was making me think of when you said that is I told you this before. Actually, another weird overlap we just happen to have simultaneously is actually completely separate to drum and bass. In fact, even before I'd heard your remixes of some of his work, I already bizarrely had come across the work of Niels Petter Morva. And I'm not someone who's particularly into trumpet music or jazz. That was never my jam, mate. I was always, electronic music or just classic rock or something like that. And I have to say, this is one of those guys where, like, mate, I don't even just think of him as a guy who plays the trumpet. He's like a fucking poet or something. Like, he is one of those people where, and ironically, when I hear him play, I'm off somewhere, mate. I'm off experiencing something. There's a story playing out. It's magical, and I love that you listen on the main track of your album. He's another person you're hooked up with again. You're linked up with.
But that also shows my intent. There's a reason he's on that track, because I respect him enough to be my equal. So I wanted to, like, even just a tiny part of him is so inspirational to me due to the understanding he has of that instrument and how to use it to soothe or manipulate, whatever you want to call it, human emotion. It's like he is the truth for what he does.
Oh, he's a Jedi, isn't he?
His past. And also, but like, it's a respect thing for me. It's like I'm setting a standard for myself by saying, look, you can match me at my level and let's have some fucking fun. But I ain't just going to collaborate or like work with anyone at all that don't bring, something that I admire to the table. And with Niels Petter Morva it's a great story. When I came out with Black Science Labs, he was on the phone. He got my phone.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, started talking to me about me in the Norwegian media, to the point where Molde Jazz Festival booked me to play with him and another prominent jazz pianist called Bugge Wasseltoft, and a percussion player in a boxing ring. And I'm DJing, and it's going to be improvised jazz over whatever the fuck I'm pulling out my bag. I have never done anything like this in my life. I come in there, the fucking place is sold out, it's rammed. I was like, oh, fucking hell, what is this? It's not a rave, I don't know this demograph, nothing. And I'm looking at my box, and I was like, I got like 40 records in it. I'm not really prepared, And I said, fuck it. Don't think about it, just start going. And mate, next thing I know is that, like, we're getting mobbed after the show. Like, people are like, we have never heard anything like this.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, that again led to me touring with him in Europe, DJing before his, because, I've done production for him as well. Many people don't know this, but it's like, not just remixes, but actually snippets.
Oh, right.
So I've just like sort of served him. Like, he had his face where he did more electronic stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
His album and stuff like that.
The early 2000s was dope, yeah.
Yeah. And he kept like, and even to this day, like, he looks at me. The only way I can describe it, right? This is going to sound so fucking weird, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like, when your father's really proud of you and you can just tell.
Sure.
And he looks at me that way. And it's like, he's always
son.
in awe of what I play him. And he's just always in awe of like how my mind works. And he's still like such a fan. And I'll never forget, he didn't have to do that. Like, one of the most prominent jazz players in the world didn't have to go in the national newspaper, literally call me like, that's a problem in Bergen. Like, you guys don't realize what it is, and I'm, we're talking early 2000s here. And like the way he fucking championed me and the respect he showed me, like, I've been to his home, all kinds of things. I'm allowed to use I'm the only artist who's allowed to sample him where there's a fucking, there's a part in his contract where that's like whatever money he's made. So I can take whatever I want, but obviously I want his part. So whenever I have the opportunity to access him, I'll do that. But it's like I don't know. He kind of sees me in a way, and it's been something I've had to lean on so many times when things have been hard. It's like, with someone that brilliant thinks that I have something worth taking care of, and I can't do that for myself that day, that always gets me in the right place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that just also shows that one of the most important things in life is go where the light automatically turns on if you walk into the room.
I have a theory that in life, in the same way as if you are yourself, you will repel some people. They'll hate you. They'll hate you. Also attract people. It has a magnetic, and the right people will just come into your life. It's amazing.
Yeah, really. And it's like, and with that comes a quiet confidence that you kind of match their frequency in a way.
Yes.
And that's authenticity. And that is key.
By the way, when you were actually slowly doing the drip feed of the first clips of the tracks that were on this album, I noticed the first ones you put were the more like, I think they were more recognizable TeeBee. But I told you, you waited right till the end to drop the track that I think is my favorite one on the album, is the track Unity, because mate, this is actually just one of the best things you have ever done. Like this is timeless. Like it has elements that remind me of really early TeeBee. I mean, even the vocal aspect is just something so soulful. It's so different to Calyx and TeeBee. I mean, this track, give me some thoughts on this track.
There's a Peruvian singer, and it's an ancient melody about returning to the source and how you need to connect with the energy of everything before you can understand anything. And it's just the delivery and the message, even though, I don't understand a word of what she's saying.
Sure.
It's like all I had to do was the track was finished when I couldn't remove another element. Because it had to be open and vulnerable, but at the same time, something else. And it's a track, I know exactly what you mean. I will never make a track like that again. Even though it's TeeBee, it's still like, I always come back to that slightly, new take on something familiar.
Yes.
So it's like TeeBee, but it's not. And it's the last track I did to wrap up the album. Because I was like, what's missing? And it was that feeling. And, So I'm glad you pointed that out. That was actually going to be a big single, but like we did a massive mistake with this record. We rushed it in the release phase because we had a different plan that actually got scrapped about the greater than stuff. And anyway, long story short, album's out there. It's doing good. I'm just happy to have it sort of like to close that chapter because that's like therapy for me,
Sure.
Like just get that out of the way. And as always, I'm never one to sort of like sit and rest on something. I'm always way down the line. If something comes out, I'm done with it anyway. So I'm obviously more excited about. Sorry, mate, I'm eating pizza.
Good.
I'm obviously more excited about all the stuff I've got coming, and I'm just excited about. Like, I think it's gonna be like a smaller demographic on a lot of it, right? But that's okay. But I think that the sum of it all hasn't been done before. Or like, at least I can't find someone who's done what I'm trying to do with these 3 different projects. Because there's like one, without becoming too philosophical, Duncan, it's like everything has to connect in a certain way. Because what I do, I'm about to tell you something I've never said to like any reporter or anything. What I do is when I make music, I see it. I can't make it until I see it. It's pictures. Always. It's always pictures. It's always pictures and movies. But out of that comes a narrative. And out of that narrative comes characters. Out of those characters come stories and destinies. And I've documented every single thing that's come into my mind because it's a creative process, even though it's my fantasy and it's my daydream. But everything's written down or recorded.
I mean, you've got to do that or you lose it, right? And also then you can come back later and pick it up when it's the right time.
Yeah. But like it got so elaborate that during lockdown, are you familiar with a game called EVE Online?
Yes.
right before they got sold to this Korean gaming company or whatever it was, I was in a Zoom meeting with the entire board of the company because they were going to build me a space station that would double as an entertainment, like a free zone.
Okay.
Where we would literally, I would design it around the concept of my music, and then we'd do holographic performances. We'd put it out in that realm, and it's like, what music would be more perfect than,
Sure.
that kind of music for that? And to have someone like me in charge of it, it would actually be safe. And it would have been something magnificent. And we were so excited about it, and then they fucking sold it.
By the way, that sounds like one of those ideas that if you popped out of a time machine to yourself in 2002 and said, bro, we're not just making space age futuristic music, it's going to actually be like a virtual space. It sounds like that would be your dream. Be like, holy fuck, what? I'll do that in 20 plus years. How?
Mate, when I fell apart, I fell apart.
Right. You were that invested.
And also, if you ever listen to those Subclub podcasts I did, if not, they're all on my SoundCloud. And what I did was I really put my time and effort into those, and to try and do the type of musical journey that I couldn't do as Calyx and TeeBee. So I had to have another outlet as well.
Right.
But I designed a story for each one of them, things I'm interested in, or whatever it is, ideas I have. And it was like concept mixes. And it was the intros and the way I did it that caught these people on, because some of them were fans of my old stuff, but it's like I had a new angle on it and they could see it. And then we started talking, and I had this idea already about that game because I used to play it a lot. And yeah, it was ready to go, mate. And after that, I just fell apart. I was like, fuck. I was right there. It was right there. I could fucking smell it. And it would have been something no one's done. And yeah, that was a good portion of my time that was quite crucial that went into that, and then that just evaporated. And I think that's the first time I've been truly gutted that something didn't happen.
Right.
Because I believed so wholeheartedly in that concept. And just the fact of you're flying around all of a sudden this little sort of floating object with a hologram on it as you're just traveling space, and it's like my face DJing, and it's like directions to to where you're supposed to go. And just, can you imagine, I was even going as far as thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to build the club. It's going to be like a replica of the end. Like the way it's going to look, it's going to be exactly like the end.
Mate, if people don't know, if no one's listening now who was from that era, that was the best drum and bass club ever.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it? It was so iconic.
Even to the point of, how we used to bang the pipes for the real.
Yep. At the back, all the people, yep.
As you walked into the club, I told them, listen, let's put these little cabinets in the entrance with remnants of the pipes from the original.
Right.
End. And it's like, that's the stage we were at. And then it's like, yeah, not happening. And I've never told that story to anyone.
Sounds dope. By the way, as a bizarre coincidence as well, that even though I've actually seen you play out live many, many, many times, like currently I live in the Netherlands, I've seen you play loads of the Blackout stuff, and a bunch of times you played in Amsterdam. And actually, the first time I ever saw you in real life was in the end, actually. I just remember one time you were there. It's before you were in Calyx and TeeBee. And right. I remember actually at the time even thinking and you like the music already, but I remember even thinking I don't know why, you're just almost like there's a kindred vibe there. But at the time I wasn't the person I was now. I would have never had any way to broach the topic, or I wasn't even the famous journalist at the time. So, it's one of those weird coincidences. I haven't always thought that particular club to me, mate, was just something special. It was the perfect size. It wasn't too big. It was intimate. At the same time, you could pack the dance floor. He had some of the best nights ever as well. If you want to look at the flyers, mate, there's some unbelievable nights there with 10 people back to back, are all the biggest people of all time. Yeah. It was nuts.
You were down there and you literally felt culture being created.
Absolutely.
And it's there just won't be anything like it.
No.
And it's I look at those profound even Metalheads at the Blue Note, which was really special for me. And it's to the point where I made it my life. And I realized in my misery towards touring way too much that I'm searching for a moment that's never going to come back.
You're chasing the dragon, yeah.
Yeah, and that realization as well was massive for me, because I'm not, because at that point, I'd kind of fallen into the bias of like, yeah, I'm on autopilot. I know how to do this.
Sure.
And it's like, you know, you become like the cliche, you know, where everything is good enough and you always find something to look at. And it's I just didn't want any of that anymore. And you know, I get asked a lot if me and Larry ever will get back together. And obviously, you know, I'm wise enough to know that you can't move in absolutes, but highly unlikely. And also highly unlikely that I will work with many people from drum and bass. There's a couple on my list that I've always said I'm going to work with. I'm going to have a great dialogue with. One of them is Shy FX. Like, I respect Shy immensely, man. You know, he's still that guy. He still represents the roots and culture of the music, and quietly just sort of doing his own thing on the left, and never really ever became irrelevant. And you know, besides that, you know, I've worked with everyone that I want to work with. You know, Noisia, Photeg, Goldie, you name it. Like I've done that thing, and it's like drum and bass to me isn't really like the new generation of kids coming through. It doesn't. I don't know. Like the palette and the choices and it's just not for me. And I'm looking at technology, and it's become so easy to make an average tune.
I mean, put it this way. If someone ever listens to a TeeBee mix, and I do think mixing is one of your other big strengths as well. You're clearly not a guy just programming in Ableton and pressing the button. No. One part of it is the taste. Like, as you say, the way you're blend, like, pretty sweet, you don't just play the current big bang. I bet people send you shit all the time that you never put on there. But there's to me, you've always been someone who had like a fine-tuned palette, and you're trying to express that through doing your mixes as well.
100%, and that's really kind of you to say, and that actually means a lot to me that you say it, because I do put a lot of time and effort in when I do that. And
you also plan out some of those transitions loads, mate. Like I remember I've got a very good memory. One of the tracks I could tell you always put insane effort into what was going to bleed in and out of it was that Scavenger track you did. You had some unbelievable beat matches on that again, weren't just like Ableton identified the sound wave was the same and you pressed the button. Like you clearly, like you were doing something with that, you know?
You know, absolutely. And that was a conscious thing. And it's like, you know, for the longest time, like drum and bass is like is the biggest sufferer of his own culture, because everyone's looking sideways, and because regardless of popular opinion, unless you're in the top 20, you just ain't making enough to be in the
right.
And it's like you're looking at the top, and you're looking at Andy C back then, you know, when he was in his heyday,
sure.
playing vinyl, and how technically he was and how quick he was. And then when people go on CDJs and stuff, you realize, oh, well, you know, you got beat match now, you can be quick. 3 decks is not a problem. Then it became 4 decks. And then it became about that. Like you have AMC, like, you know, amazing technical DJ.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather hear the fucking tune, mate. You know what I'm saying?
You mean. This way, you don't get enough of it, do you? He gives you the tease, and you're starting to get into it like it's a normal drum bass mix, and then suddenly you're on to the next. Yeah, I know what you mean.
No, but I also come from an era where tracks were 11 minutes long.
Yes.
And like Crush True Stories, about 9.5. I've never fucking skipped it.
Sure, I mean? Of course, yes.
Like, you got to respect it. And it's like this as well. Like on Adam F's Metropolis, there's one moment where the bass does one turn it doesn't do in the entire track. Like me and my mates, well, 2 of my mates, who are ancestors mine, this guy called Björn, this other guy called Stilla. We rewinded it every fucking time it came to that, but we forced ourselves to hear it from the start.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't hear it from the start, that moment didn't happen.
Yes.
It's the progression of it that leads to that.
Yes. By the way, I can actually tie this into a question I have. Like, I'll say something similar. There's an old, I know you're a fan of Gridlock too, and you know him. There's an old Gridlock track from a long time, it might be 20 years ago itself. It's a one called Mirage, which is the same thing, bro. This is like if Stanley Kubrick made a fucking drum and bass track. Like, it's mega long, but it's not ever this, it's never just the same repeating 16 or something, mate. It's just going on this journey that you're on, and you're like, bloody hell. Like, but you think to yourself, how would anyone ever put that into a mix with a 2-minute part to it? And one thing I actually have noticed when I've listened to your interviews, and once I heard this, I could never unhear it in your tracks, is you never do the copy and paste approach. You never do the, right, it's symmetrical build up, symmetrical go down, it's really satisfying. Your thing is, there's always a slight tweak to it. In fact, that Unity track's a great example. Mate, the patterns, there's definitely repetition, but it's more like it rhymes rather than it's identical. It's clearly something of your philosophy, right?
Every moment you have someone listening to your music is a privilege. Why would you be predictable? That is not why. Like, the brain recognizes patterns immediately. Like, if a hi-hat is static, if it goes the same velocity and in the same place where it's not slightly off grid here and there, the brain is going to take that information and it's going to place it in the back of your mind as not threatening. So it's going to ignore it and make it part of your automation. So the key is, in terms of if you want to go into psychology and music, I'm trying to keep myself entertained. Right. That shit's fucking hard. You know what I'm saying? So, like, ultimately, I'm here trying to entertain myself. So if I'm not entertained, how should someone else be entertained? So my approach to that is, there's nothing worse for me than to be predictable. Like, you can follow a formula, for sure. And, like, all of my tracks, my tracks have a certain formula to it, depending on the era.
Yes. There's a certain build-up style you can recognise, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, but the thing is, it's those little twists and turns that come when you don't expect it. That's what's going to keep you coming back. Because I did something to you right there that made you stop in your tracks, because your brain has been so used to, that's it. Oh, that's the track. Cool. And it just puts it in the back of your head.
Yes.
But, like, I like music that when you listen to it for the 15th, 20th time, you find that hidden melody, or you find that little moment that is saying something at 1 minute, and then you get the answer at 6 minutes.
By the way, one thing I've noticed about you as well is because you've done 1 billion interviews, a lot of journalists, like, I'll just be kind of rude for a moment. A lot of them are very surface level, mate, and a lot of music journalism famously is just waffle about, you're really trying to get back to the roots of this one. Were you trying to appeal to, it's all that shit, right? So one thing I've noticed you are amazing at, like every really good musician is, you are good at doing fucking sound bites that could be like on the picture of you, And one thing you said about this new album that I loved, but I've got a spin on it for you. I've used my own little creativity. So about the track Armory Dob, you did the whole TeeBee, like you went off on one where you were like, it's about, like the mainstream media and the way the governments are controlling the world, and this is my response. I'll give you my spin on it, mate. That premise, again, speaking of the idea that music can be used to manipulate and can be used as a weapon, that famous thing that came out of the global war on terror was that in Guantanamo Bay, they would take music, like heavy rock music or something, and they would just use it as a talk show weapon. They would like force people to listen to it. I was thinking this, mate, that is the track that if we could actually get one of these world leaders and tie him to a chair, that is the track we would play full blast into the fucking headphones and make them listen to. You know what I mean?
100%. It's nothing but bleak. At the end of it, it's like it's the end of the world. Yeah. That's it. It's done. And it's like, I think that it's important to portray those kind of, if you can make someone feel that, like that is so far from listening to the lyrics in a song and going along with the storyline. And this is why I love ambient music, because some of these ambient artists, right, like my favorite artists, or like the ones I return to, have no streams. Like, I can tell they don't give a fuck. Like, if you don't know about Dead City's last broadcast, just start there and go down the rabbit hole. I mean, that's some fucking real shit. And for me, it's like, I know exactly, like if I want to invoke your happiness, I can play this chord.
straight for, if I can, sadness, this, that, and that. It's tried and tested. It's like basic human emotion based on frequency manipulation. So at an early stage, even as early as like before I was even mid-teens, I was kind of not really impressed with, like the conventional way of the music made me feel. It was tried and tested. I consumed so much of it that it just became predictable. And I think what's largely not been represented or suppressed is that music has been used to manipulate the most basic of human emotions that are being like held as the ultimate truth,
Yes.
Write a million love songs because everyone wants to fall in love, like write a million breakup songs, write a million, but like, I can't believe you did that to me songs. And it's like, people are not realizing that it's a constant battle between getting you to think a certain way or feel a certain way, that the profoundness of what it can be has forever been lost and never really been discussed.
Oh, it evaporates, mate. Like that's the beauty of it. It's something I actually came to as an epiphany in my own life, as I'm sure everyone does, which is when you're not in love and you hear those songs, you think that they hit that like pleasure center of like, oh, this like feels great and I feel awesome. But then what's funny is when you actually are in love with someone and you say what sounds like a cliched line, like something you've heard a million times, it hits 1,000 times harder though. And what you realize is like the simulacrum, the version that they watered down and diluted in the music, that's almost to make you think that is the full maximum depth. It's just this surface level, let's get together, let's have a good time. Baby, I want you back. But that's so different from a piece of art that actually explores that feeling, the real depth of what you can have in the experience.
100%. Bang on the money. And it's like, that's it. It's like, it's manipulation, basically. Like music has, for the longest time, commercial music has been about either selling a product, lifestyle, put you in a mindset, uphold a narrative,
yes,
or a suppressed culture, or even to the point where it suppressed people. Look what they did to hip hop.
Sure.
Like they used it to fucking fuel the private prison industry.
Yes.
And it's like, ultimately, these are not fucking conspiracy theories. They are facts.
No.
And it's like, and it's like, I look at that and I was like, even though that was the incentive, right? That first NWA record, when I got that, I felt I had a piece of something dangerous in my hands.
Sure.
I felt fucking cool, man. Like fuck the police, and like, I was like, what? You can say that? And like, for me, like early hip hop was none of what it turned out to be to others. It was like, wow, the naughty kids are out here being rude. I like it. And that is also what drum and bass was. Drum and bass was dangerous. Like jungle, it was dangerous, man. I remember like first time I went to the UK after I turned 18, I used to call the numbers on the record labels and just to get in touch with people, just talk about this music because I had no one to talk to about it in Norway. And like, how weird is that? Like, I'm calling a fucking label just to talk about music. That's how desperate I was to like find out about it. So one of the artists I got in touch with that was real nice to me was this guy called Hopper from Hopper and Bones. They did a few releases and they did had a label called Outcry and they did something on Moving Shadow, all of that stuff. And he's a really good friend of DJ Hype. So no relation or like not because he had to. I was over at 18 years old and I was staying at this hostel. No, sorry, at the top of this pub, not too far from Hopper. And he came and picked me up and he's like, yeah, we're going to go to Hype's house. I was like, what Hype? Like, as in DJ Hype? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh my God, I was nervous. I was fucking shitting bricks. The amount of Hype tapes I had in 1993 was a lot. And I come to Kevin's, like, Hype's house and he sizes me up. And he goes, your accent's funny, but I like you. And he's like, come in. And he goes into like where he has his DJ set up. And I was like, I'm just seeing like, dozens of dub plates. It's like I am in fucking musical history heaven.
Sure.
But it doesn't stop there. And he looks at me, he's like, do you want to come to my gigs this weekend? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I can't believe it. I'm like riding with Hype to go to Laserdrome first for him to play a set.
And I'm like a kid in the candy store. I'm not kidding you. And I get to Laserdrome, right? And I've never been exposed to anything that's got to do with this culture. And Hype's like, yeah, stay close to the booth, mate. Stay close to me. I was like, yeah, cool. And I obviously do my thing. I don't listen to anyone, so I wander off. And I'm just minding my own business, just dancing, just loving it. I'm with Hype. He's playing. This is great. I'm not realising it's fucking moody in there, mate. Like, moody.
Okay.
And then I'm looking around. I was like, holy shit, where's the white people? There's no white people. There was very little. And, coming from Norway, I'm used to being around white people. That's just how it is. And before I know it, there's 10 guys that circle me in. And I'm realising what this is. I'm being fucking shaken down.
Right.
But, I just don't know what's good for me. So I just fucking go out the one that looks the weakest to get out. And I managed to get past it. And that's when I realised what he meant. Like, I hadn't clocked at all. Coming from Norway, loving the music for how it made me feel. Because it felt like the truth. It felt like someone here is like representing me. Like someone it's tough. My parents are not going to get this. It makes me feel like I want to both scream and laugh and smash shit up. And it's just the way the beats were, the way everything was put in that context. It sounded dangerous, but so alluring. And I realized in order for something to feel dangerous and alluring, it has to come from an authentic place. And if you go and mess with the lower, the working class of the mixed nationalities of struggle in London, there's going to be some characters.
Oh, for sure.
And from this overprivileged white kid from Norway that, I've never really lacked anything, I'm going to look at it, that was an entirely new experience. And I realized there and then that, wow, I actually had no idea what this was representing, or like where it came from.
Sure.
And that made me understand later, like understand what happened to me earlier when I got rejected. When people didn't want to take my dad, so I walked up to some of the biggest DJs in drum and bass at the time. Every single one refused to take the music that I made. And it wasn't like they were being rude. I was kind of got the message was like, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
At this point.
You weren't part of the culture at the time, right?
No, I wasn't. And I think that, so I started studying that, obviously, because if the worst thing people can do, in my opinion, or like the dumbest thing, is to go into something from an egotistical point of view, thinking, yeah, I'll figure it out as I go along, or like, I'll fucking get there. Research.
You gotta pay your dues, right?
What's gonna fucking put you always.
Absolutely.
Like, don't come to a fucking knife fight carrying a paper plane. You know what I mean? It's like, that just doesn't fucking work. And, but I went one step further. I was like, well, I've been so fucking privileged. It's like, I actually know nothing about this. So when I got back to Norway, I, obviously through DJing, it's like you meet a lot of people. I knew a lot of people from like the biker scene and stuff like that. And I started hanging out with them because they had a total different mindset, right? And that's the only way I felt that I could access that kind of danger in Norway, was to be around that. And then I started playing on some of their parties, and how it turned out to be actually was that they gave me free reins every Friday to play whatever the fuck I wanted at their clubhouse, and what turned out to be, me trying to fucking, I don't know what I was trying to do, actually became like it became weird. This is going to sound so weird. It became like family. It was like, the way they ran things was, I realized, okay, everything here in this world where things are illegal goes on the weakest link. So the person that is not truthful or not respectful, that's going to break the whole chain. It's so fucking fragile. So I realized, okay, some of these might not be the sharpest knives in the drawer, but man, there's some loyalty and respect here that I didn't even know existed. And the reason I say this is because now that people like Fabio and Groove Rider and Goldie, like, they're all my friends. And it's like, it's not just friends, but it's people I love and respect. And, I can not talk to Fabio for 5 years, but whenever we meet, it's the same love, like, he's been here in the studio, he's been to my house, he's been like, And he said something to me that I'm actually really proud of. When they were here I booked them for the Hot Festival. And that means a lot to me because that means that what I'm about to say means I did my fucking homework. I'm here with DJ Marquee, Groove Rider, Fabio. We're listening to the Cosmic Carnival. I'm playing them, these tracks. And, they're really in them. And Fabio stops the music and looks at me and says, you know what, TeeBee? It's like, the reason you're one of us is because you're hood. And I'm like, I'm fucking trying to be. But,
sure.
But, I had to study to get that. Because I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I kind of became it because I knew that in order to understand the nuances of what this culture is like, you have to respect the struggles to where it came from and what it represented. It's like Byrknes was born out of the fact that Brazilian gangsters wanted anthems with their names on to ring the dance, And it's like, I don't fucking want to go where there's marshmallows and I want to go where there's knives because there's truth there. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go where the real shit is not afraid to be real shit. And people kind of, unfortunately, that is usually the people that are fed up with the rest of it. And the reason I'm still fucking want to go with this shit is because where the fuck is that shit now? To go into a rave feels like you're going to a fucking Apple convention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like...
Oh, it feels safe as fuck now, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck that shit, man. There's nothing dangerous about it.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm looking at the demo, I'm looking at the people, I was like, I get so fucking bored. I couldn't even pull a conversation out of the arsehole of anyone in here.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest, I listened to the music that gets played and I was like, makes perfect sense.
Yep. Oh, it's sanitized as fuck, innit?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, for me, I mean, this sounds like old man screaming at the sky, which is partially true, because that's what it is. I'm not saying things were better before. Absolutely fucking not. But in terms of something that I think is really important, and one of the things that kept me in this music, but not just in music, but has kept with me my whole life, is that in order to really navigate this matrix, you have to be equal familiar with how people do things at the very top and at the very bottom.
Yes.
Because the level of like your understand, like the range of your nuance is your advantage.
Yeah. By the way, since you referenced it earlier, I even have a similar experience myself. I actually live I used to live, I now live in the Netherlands. I used to live in the northeast of England. And basically, I used to have to travel down. There was fuck all drum and bass where I was, man. I had to travel down to London and do those nights where you do the whole night out. And then you have to get the first train back and do your best to stay awake so you don't fall asleep and miss your train and go to Scotland or something mental, So I used to do these like pilgrimages to go to the end, etc. Right? And when I would go there, I know exactly what you mean. I would go there and I only knew the tracks. So I would be going in there all on my own, by the way, not with anyone else. I'd be going in, and as you're saying, it's bringing back the memories, mate. First of all, I'd be in there and there'd be, if I started at the back of the room because I came late, there'd be all those people who would just like, listen, they didn't give a fuck, mate. They would just light a joint up like in the back of the club or something. And you'd be like, holy fuck, that smoking ban already exists, boys. Like, what are we doing here? And then also, as you're saying with the pipes, mate, when they press the pipes and they ask for the reload back then, that actually gives you a sense of the taste. Now you know, oh, that's the dope track, right? Oh, fuck, this is the new hot shit. This isn't just some something people do as an affectation. That's how you get a sense of the culture. I know what you mean.
Absolutely, man. And then, on top of that, like, let's put it this way. When I first started releasing music, I didn't get paid. Fuck all, man.
Sure.
People just took your shit. They didn't give a fuck. It was gangster shit. That's what it is. It was gangster shit.
Yeah.
It was like from that era. And the reason drum and bass matured so slowly and then eventually, look what it became, is because the gangsters got phased out.
Sure.
And the corporations came in and the business was run properly. So with that, we lost the root that we lost. But we didn't lose it. But like we started ignoring it. And yes, I do not agree with artists not getting paid for their music. I do not at all. That's fucking horrible. But honestly, mate, I want to pay my dues, the real way.
Absolutely.
And it's like I wouldn't want to be without it, and just the realness of some of the people in this scene that, you know, did this out of desperation to get away from their lives or whatever environment they were in, was so profound to me because, you know, at that age, you don't really think about how people have it around the world. You know, you're just passionate about music and you're trying to find yourself. And the reason I think that I really should give a shit is because the acceptance into that culture and becoming a part of it, and like how it's made me realize myself, like far outweighs in gratitude any of the negativity that comes with it. It's like I owe that shit my life. It set me on a path to where I realized that, you know, I can design my own future in every which way as long as I stay true to it. And I'm at a point, I gotta give something back, mate. You know, like I have to at least try. And it might sound pretentious. It might not mean anything for anyone, but that's not the point. Like, let me just do it anyway, because I can and because I want to. And if it doesn't resonate with you right now, maybe it will in 20 years. Who knows? But I got to do this the way I think it should be done from my perspective, because I think that has a certain value. And I don't think there's anyone but me who can do it. I also, in saying that out loud, because I had this discussion with my wife, that's how deep it goes really with her, I know the effort it's going to require of me. Because why would I ever release anything that is worse than what I have?
Isn't that also one of the things that drives you, though? Like setting yourself a challenge that you don't actually maybe even 100% know yet how you'll pull it off, but it's like throwing yourself into that fire sort of. You'll just be forced to do it. You'll be forced to figure out the techniques. You'll be forced to master it. You'll be forced to get it exactly right. And
that's why I do it, because it's never completion. It's just forever a spiral of like improving yourself and coming with a, you know, it's challenges. It's like you're challenging yourself. I'm not here with someone trying to tell me what to do in my job. I actually have to think. I have to feel. I have to be in touch with things. Like things have to align up for me in order for me to be that self-indulgent, where I believe where I got my top off and I'm jumping off the sofa because I got it. You know what I mean? Like I'm shouting. It never changes, Duncan. It's like when I got the ghost loop, I'm at my seat.
Right.
I got a certain attitude. I got a fucking chip on my shoulder. You name it, it's there. You know what I mean? And it's like, I fucking love it. You know, like creativity is intelligence having fun with itself. And it's like, I get to do that. And that is, everything else is bullshit.
By the way, I've got a question about a track that'll lead into. I want to ask about the We Are Greater Than project. So You already had the track, The Way That parentheses Savior, which by the way is a classic TeeBee sounded track. The drum build-up's awesome. Even the sort of like the vocal sample on that one, it reminds me of classic early 2000s TeeBee. But as I told you, when you drop the Palmer Reid stuff on top of it, it just becomes something else. I was telling you before we did the interview, mate, it's like you've blended R&B with drum and bass, which I don't think I've ever really heard before, except the joke is aside from your weird remixes you used to do back in the day as bootlegs. Like there's something there. I can see what you're going for.
So you basically clocked it. So basically for the longest time when I did those, the Brandy remix and the Mystic way back when, that's when I first got approached by an agent. I didn't have an agent at the time. And that agent is Tom Schroeder. Tom Schroeder is now the agent of Fred again, Skrillex, that kind of, he's one of the biggest agents in the world.
Right.
And I parted ways with him in right after Through the Eyes of a Scorpion. And he said to me, all the way back then, he's like, that's your direction. If you do that, you will be undeniable. Because the thing about me is like, I mean, you either have it or you don't. But there's a certain thing about the way, music that is truthful and black. There's a feel to it that if you put a bunch of white guys in a room, you're usually not going to be able to replicate it. And that is, I'll stand by that. Like but nearly all music comes from black music. I mean, techno comes from black music. People don't even know that. And it's like, with Palmer, when I heard that, that's when I saw it. That's like, right, let's do it the real way, and let's do that R&B angle, which is obviously why we're going to start in America. That'll be the main focus to start with. And that track was like the first taste what it can be like.
By the way, you told me this before, so I want to ask you to repeat it now. But you know, one of the cool things about when you and Calyx actually did decide to collaborate is you told me in the first interview, actually Follow the Leader was one of the first things you ever made together, which is like almost an omen, isn't it?
Yeah.
You were saying the same thing. This remix of this track is one of the first things you ever laid down with this guy. And it's just, there's just a sense like this is it, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's like, that was kind of a testing ground as well for me, just to see, like, to throw him a curveball, because he had never heard drum and bass before.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, you know, like, I'm taking him on gigs and like, I'm showing him British MC culture, flying him in from America. We did this Shogun and Flexite night, and his first time in the UK doing it. And he's like, we're about to leave his jet lag. And then MC Focus goes on. And, you know, he's like, Palmer's a lyricist and like, you know, amazing. And he's like, hold on, Teebs, maybe we should hang about for a minute. Yeah, mate. He stayed the whole fucking night. Listened to every like MC that was good. Like it blew his mind, because he got that thing that I got about. It's nothing like America, you know. It's nothing like America. The way the MCs control the dance, the delivery. A good MC can make or break a night.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So like ultimately, like he thought, you know, he's so comfortable in who he is as an artist. It's like, you know, I said to him, the way I look at you, Palmer, I said, it's like, I rate you like you're fucking Chris Brown. And he goes, I'm better than Chris Brown. And I start laughing. I was like, that's my kind of people.
Sure.
You know, and it's like, when he stepped in there, like, he got humble immediately and approached these MCs with gratitude and like, you know, like Focus is a really underrated but incredible MC. He takes it very seriously. He's got this podcast called Mic Men, I think, which is primarily about MC culture. And as much as I prefer to play without an MC, I would always prefer to have GQ if that was an option, you know? And that's because of what Gary GQ does from that stage. And when Palmer kind of saw that rawness from UK culture and like, remember that moment, and then he wrote this thing that he put down when he was here, and I was like, holy shit, man. Not only did you crack it, but you did a slight American twist on it that hasn't been done. And it's like, with the Greater Than Project, it's like, that's what it's about. It's like, how do we, the three of us, take all this musical information, like I've been pretty single-minded, you know, like the technical aspect of music making and the actual creation part of it, understanding how sonics work, understand how waveforms talk to each other, and you know, anything down to how dithering affects the end result, like all the nerd shit, like that's been my thing, you know. That's all I've done all the time, just learning, because it just resonates with me. And then you have Craze, who's like fucking Mr. Music, like 3 times world champion, like you just can't fuck with him. Like Kanye's ex-tour DJ. It's like, you know, everyone knows who fucking DJ Craze is. He's a fucking icon. He's a judge on DMC now. He's just, and like you go in here and play it, and you know he never fucking drops the ball. He just doesn't drop the ball. He's the most insane DJ I've ever seen. It's like, I had to pinch myself just the other week before we did this gig in Space in Miami, because, you know, I'm a fan of his, right? Like, I used to buy his videos and shit. And like, you know, the DMC stuff, I used to that was my Bible, because I came from turntablism before I was a producer. That's what I was into. So go figure, something technical, right, to do with music. And his skill in that apartment is equal to the skills that I have with my equipment. But his musical understanding, and also to come to the root of why something's cool, or like what's going to catch on, and the reasons for it, is always blows my mind. Like one of the best nights I've had was in March. I was over there in Miami for a bit, and he's just on a Wednesday, he's doing a Miami bass set outside of Dante's Hi-Fi, which is this like sort of trendy bar by the beach. And it's just set up like a little sort of afternoon thing, you know, little sort of tent over the DJ thing. System's all right. And for the next 2.5 hours, he's just playing Miami bass classics in Miami for a Miami crowd. And, you know, that's culture to them. And I never understood it. And just to see it unfold in front of my eyes in that moment took me right back to why I started this. And And that's what he does in this. Like, he brings all, like, we even have a Miami bass thing for the Greater Than project. But the thing is, as this is a dictatorship, not a democracy, then I have, we could release that and it would be a great record. But it would be a great record. So the challenge for me with the Greater Than thing is what I want it to be, or like how I feel it should be, is it needs to have a certain wrapping around it that only I could have done. So I'm going to say this out loud to make myself accountable. That track is amazing the way it is right now, but it needs to sound like some fucking something like way far ahead in the future, found an ancient relic of something and polished it in a way where the original message remained, but the rapping was like completely unfamiliar. But it's the nuances in the sound choices and the sound manipulation that's going to create that feeling. And that is where I'm at right now. Like with the Greater Than project, I've got 26 tracks that are all brilliant, but it's like how the question now is all down to me. And I love it when it's all down to me because I can't blame anyone else. It's my favorite. And we all kind of tend to want to do that. It's the easy way out. But I don't want to fucking do that. So I'm taking accountability. So they've done all the work they need to do. I've got everything from them that I wanted. And now I'm sitting there hoarding, looking at this music. And I'm afraid. And I'll tell you why I'm afraid. Because if this goes the way I see it in my head, I'm going to be famous. That's the last thing I want. It's the last fucking thing I want. There's nothing. I mean, I kind of know what it's like already on on the scale that I'm at. But
sure.
There is nothing worse for me than for people to just want to be around or talk to me because they have some idea of who I am based on having seen me in a certain. Like, I go rounds with myself. I was even contemplating keeping myself out of it, like letting them two be like the entity. Because that is the one thing. I just look around and, I have famous people, famous friends and they all say the same. It's like they all wish it could go back to how it was before.
Yes.
And that's what brings me back again full circle to what I said about this little place from when my dad grew up, like the actual island that my last name is from. Like the reason I need to build out before it starts and not tell anyone about it is because I need to know that I can go somewhere where there's 226 people in one shop in the middle of fucking nowhere so I can be left alone. Because honestly, to be alone for me is literally like at least 75% of my existence is me, myself, and my thoughts. And it's always been that way. And if I am in a large crowd or something for a long time, I just get super nervous. Like the larger the crowd, the fucking more lonely I feel nearly. So for me, to be on these stages, like when we did these festivals as well, because DJing to me was like interaction with people. It's like sharing the passion. Then I'm on a stage in Belgium in front of 60,000 people. It just feels so impersonal.
Yeah.
And I'm not even having fun. And it's like, anyone would kill to be in that position. And then we do like Sector 6 at Boomtown. It's like 90,000 people. And it's carnage. And we're playing things we've never played before from the character, and it just goes off. And I'm looking at the videos now. And I still don't feel anything. And in a way it makes me, does that make me ungrateful or, but then in the back of it, it's like, that wasn't my truth.
Yeah.
It was something I did to fulfill something just to see if I could do it. And I honestly think that that mindset in the first place was not the right one. Although it taught me things, it massively deviated me from my original path. Literally shaved like a good 15 years of it. So that's also the sense of urgency, Duncan. It's like, I still got shit to say. It's just, someone's actually going to have to do the work, And I know how much time some of this takes. And it's come down to prioritizing now. Like, what is important? Like there's three angles on this. It's like the truth, and then there's like we're going to headline Glastonbury, and then there's like the greater than thing, which we've decided we can't put a label on it. Like it's got to be what it's got to be. We just have to. It's just got to be genuine, and that's what we want to do with that. Well, that's what we are doing. Like it's genuine music. Like comes from a place of every single time, try and be the best you can be. Like because mediocrity is everywhere right now, and it's been hailed as the greatest thing. But fuck that shit, man. You know, I'm not down with that. I'm not going to celebrate anyone who does something that someone's done before.
Sure. No, I know exactly what you mean. Like, first of all, that's something as an older man I've come to love. Is like, it's not always just the good but safe movie that you want to watch. You want to watch the one where they swing for the fences. And sometimes it might be a flawed gem where they don't even land some of it, you know, like some of it just doesn't work, but it's just so ambitious that you can't even believe someone attempted it. One thing you're getting to also that I feel like you're reconnecting with as well is another thing. When I first got into drum and bass, yeah, the style I liked was the techie, and the sci-fi angle. And the joke was back then, the reason that whole aesthetic seemed to have consumed the music is everyone did think this was future music. It wasn't supposed to be music of that time. And the joke is, it still sounds like future music now, TeeBee. Just the techniques are more primitive, or it's hardware instead of plugins or whatever, you know. But I still think to myself, that is something drum and bass has lost now. Drum and bass now tries to be like the best popular music now, but within a specific electronic subgenre. It's not doing that thing where, like you say, you could easily believe some of those early 2000s tracks was something that, you know, you could imagine in a sci-fi movie, they come to the abandoned ship and you press play and the hologram comes up and it plays that track and you're just like, what's this fucking alien music, the soundscape I'm getting? I mean, we were actually talking before this about some of the albums we're into. I mean, I'll give you an example of an electronic album that, to me, it brings me back to the 90s, but then I also feel like I'm living 1,000 years in the future. It's that Global Communication album, mate.
Yeah.
That's to this day, I don't think I've ever heard anything that sounded like that.
No, man, it's an incredible piece of music. And, you know, like anything that Andrew Weatherall kind of touched upon had that sort of sense of timeless to it. And it was like, it was not afraid to be beautiful. And it wasn't afraid to be vulnerable, but at the same time, it was so fucking solid.
Yeah.
You know, it was like you mean this shit. I can feel it. And, you know, like that album is one of the few albums that's got tears out of me. You know, like not many records have done that, but that one particular melody, and you know the one I'm talking about, gets me every fucking time. It's like, it's the ultimate. It's the ultimate melody for that. It does exactly what I want you to do. Right then and there. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, it is. And also when you come back to some of this music from the early 2000s, like even before that, like if you think about it, there's only ever been one moment in our culture of drum and bass music, or like what turns out to be drum and bass, where we had a moment where something brand new got created. Because jungle was a mishmash of rare groove, this, that, and that. Sped up break, largely sample based. But then Ed Rush and Optical did Wormhole. And that's when everything changed. I have goosebumps from my legs all the way up to my head talking about this. Like that album, or like that, the sound that they created with Virus, that was something new. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, to take a door out of The Simpsons and turn it into Alien Girl, the way they use that fucking sound of that fucking, like, come on, you can't do it more brilliant.
That is still one of the most sinister tracks you'll ever hear, mate. It's crazy, isn't it? It's like a horror movie or something.
I know, and it was that thing. It was that dangerous fucking murky. Yeah. You know, like, all of a sudden, like, all my childhood, like, the sci-fi Star Wars, like, everything aligned.
Yes.
It's like, holy shit, it's time to go on the spaceship and like go ride it. And that never left me. You know, like before that, like I was mainly into, well, I was meddling in the harder sounds, but I came into this from like the softest angle. Like I enjoyed the good looking records, and much more so than I did. I was never into the jump up or like the silly sort of over the, that wasn't my thing. But I totally get why people like it. It's part of me.
Yeah.
It's fun. But that's not what I'm after. So I was more in relation to like good looking records and you know, Bookham and that sort of style. And I remember going to a rave in the UK in, when was it? I think it was 95 or 94. And every DJ was like kind of playing the same records. And then Bookham came on at like 5 a.m. with Conrad. And I think that's the closest thing I've ever been to enjoying a church.
Sure.
The way they work together, when like before, like Bookham plays this intro and it's like fucking, it's like 5 minutes before like even a rhythmical element comes in. But you had Conrad like moving in and out, and he always had his echo box with him for his voice, and he did this thing and he's just like deeper and deeper and deeper, and it became a mantra, right? And he just kept repeating it. It's like you don't know where the fucking one is, you don't know if there's ever going to be a one. And then this amen break falls out of nowhere with this 808s, and this string just keeps floating. And the place erupts. Not because it was ferocious, but because it was unpredictable and different than everything else. And that moment, I was like, that's what it's all about. It ain't about what someone else did. They've already done it, celebrate it. Like, if you get inspired by it, don't copy it. But like, what is the feeling that you're left with, right? Like, what does that mean for you? What's your take on that? Because that's going to be your take, so it'll be slightly different. And I think in this day's age of like just the fucking immediate gratification, social media is poison. At the end of the day, it's ruined artistry, it's ruined everything, in my opinion. But that's because it was a social experiment. Like, it could have been so great, but that's not what they wanted, right? So ultimately, that thing of not knowing what a record was, not even for like a year, and then you were lucky if you found a white label when it came out. Like, you had to fucking do your research and like really get invested. Yeah. And it's like, that made me feel like I was part of something that was like hidden. And like required
mate, as you say, especially when there was no internet, you'd be studying the mixes and the tapes, and you'd have memorized, what's this track that hasn't got a title yet? When's that coming out? Oh, it was like you were on a quest, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, like, I used to go to Toronto all the time, and there's always this kind of guy, and like this short guy with glasses with a notebook in the corner. And he was always there for my gigs, and like never danced anything. He just kind of stood there. And I remember I walked up to him after one of the shows. That was like fourth time I've been there. He never come up and talk to me, nothing. And I was like, hello, mate. I see you. Thanks for coming out. I see you at all my things, but like, you're always in the back. And he's like really shy. And it's like, what? Like, what are you writing down? And he shows me. He's trying to spot all my dubs.
I love it.
He's like, and it's like, I look at it and I was like, why do you know these titles? Like, how the fuck, you're not supposed to know about these records. And he looked at me, he's like, stars in his eyes. He goes like, I fucking love this shit. And I was like, man, you're like me. And we've been great friends. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like, he didn't even come tell me. He's just like, he's so into it. He knows these records ain't coming out, but he wants to know about them, right? So he fucking digs through all the tapes, like, connects the dots. And this is before the internet.
Yeah.
But I don't think people can even fathom what it was like.
No, it's not in it.
It's so different, yeah.
Another thing I want to ask you was, one area that I always noticed in your DJing, and I think it's become more pronounced because when I explain it, you'll see what I mean. Nobody else does this anymore. I'm actually not aware of almost any drum and bass DJ that does this for obvious reasons, because everyone used to see DJs. I used to think, is he just showing off when he does the scratching over the top of the mixes? Bro, I love that you kept doing that, though. You never stopped. Like, you always had that, like, old school sound clash aspect that there was always, like, a bit of that had to be mixed in. Even in the height of the Calyx and TeeBee, even if you were doing the 6 decks thing, like you say earlier, you were always doing a bit of the scratching and trying to bring that bit of the culture back in.
100%. And that's honoring my roots. Because I come from hip-hop, and, like, hip-hop is what was the catalyst. Hip-hop and breakdancing. And to get part of that culture, like that gave me something. I was 6 years old when I walked in the mall with my mum, and one of the most profound moments, there was a clothing shop downstairs, and they had some models in from the States, but they were dancers, and they were spinning on their heads and shit. And I'd never seen anything like it. And the music they were playing was literally just a drum loop. And I just got mesmerized by it. And I remember, and it's the only time I've ever said this, and my mum did correct me. I said, I'm never going to be able to do that. And my mum said, don't say that. Just say you haven't done it yet.
Ooh, that's a banger.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and something clicked, and she was right. you know, 6 months later, I'm doing head spins. And it's like, but that moment, like where dance met sound, and it was put in a context where, even though it was presented in a really uncool environment, you know, like trying to be exploited for whatever reasons, it still resonated with me to a level where I think my path was forged in that moment, in a sense. So the scratching is always sort of to remind people that, you know, respect your roots first and foremost. Like, don't ever forget where you came from, because, you know, at one point, you know, you might want to take inventory. And I think it's really important to give the right credit to the people that deserve it, because way too much praise is being thrown out on mediocrity and things that doesn't matter for people-pleasing reasons or whatever the fuck is trendy, you know. Let's put it in this way, like the year we, after All or Nothing, you know, we clean sweep the Drum and Bass Awards. We won everything that year. And I've never had as many friends as I had then.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, as I mentioned to you before we started the interview, I did inventory when I came back from the UK after having lived there for 9.5 years in this last period, where, you know, my studio was frequent by people all the time. And, you know, people I consider my friends or colleagues or whatever you want to call it. You know, the thing about the drum and bass is you become so integrated into everyone's lives that it's just like one big touring sort of, you know, anomaly of misfits. But for some reason we've all aligned with something, and now we're all fucking, you know, playing by rules that we didn't even knew we had. And it was to see what was what. And my phone only rang twice in the last year, so that was an easy one. And also probably the greatest relief. Like, I don't feel anything around it. It's like, it's not like I'm sad about it. It just basically gives me time to do more of the shit I want to do.
Sure.
But you know, like, again, just to round it off, the hip hop bit is important to me. And also that is also why I can align so well with Craze, because, you know, if anyone understands, he does.
Oh, of course.
And I'm you know, like, and also I don't ever have to worry about, you know, doing my routine again, because I'm just not going to be as good as him. So now I'm taking lessons from Craig.
Oh,
so when
right.
I do
Okay.
come back, when I do come back and I'm ready, it's going to be like, oh shit, that's right. Because, you know, I've never really upped that level. Like, I kept it consistent, but like turntablism, it requires so much.
You've got to practice all the time, right?
All the time. There's
Yes.
non-stop.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't, you're just not going to keep up with it. And I was always all or nothing, which we got Larry actually then.
Sure.
But I was always all or nothing. I'm either all in or I'm just not going to do it. And it's the same for skateboarding, like martial arts. You fucking name it, like chess. It doesn't matter. Like, I'll be all in or I will be all out. There's no grey area. Even all those years in the UK, like, I fucking battered myself. But it's like every Thursday there was old boys skating at the Store and bowl, like a 12-foot concrete bowl, proper one. And I was always a transition skater, not a street skater. And the coping and that thing, there was a proper pool coping. And it was so intimidating, the whole thing, that, you know, it took me about a year before I could get any really good tricks in. But one thing led to another, and it's like I got really back into skating, like, later in life. But at the time, due to all the traveling and just being generally miserable, I was actually quite overweight. And like, for anyone who knows me, for me to say I was overweight, they're like, it's impossible for you.
I mean, you look trim now. I've seen the latest pictures, mate.
I'm literally like, I'm in incredible shape at the moment. Like, I work out probably 3 hours a day, and I do it simply because it makes me feel fucking great. Even when I do mastering, when I have the mastering days, you know, I real-time record because it's analog. So like, the moment a master is done, I say, oh, that's 5 minutes. I'll do whatever the fuck I need to move in those 5 minutes. But like, back then I didn't. So even though my technique on a skateboard got good, that's one regret I had. I wish I was in shape, because at that time, with that little environment that we had going on in Shoreham with those, and we were all kind of the same age, like, that was so fucking punk. And it was like, reminded me of like those early days of music too, and even skateboarding, because somehow these guys are so passionate about it, they kept it pure.
Yeah.
So the guys who run the bowl, like this guy called Jelly's, that fucking diamond, you know, like he orders the right tiles from Italy there and there, you know, it's just not a bowl. It's like this means something to these kids. Like, you know, they go there and let them vent their frustrations out. And I knocked myself unconscious like 4 or 5 times in that
Fucking
place.
hell, okay.
And it's like, I'm realizing that, you know, to fall on a skateboard when you're close to 40,
It's a different vibe, isn't it?
Totally different story.
Yes.
So now I have literally parked that part of it. Like I right before a Calyx and TeeBee tour in the States, man, I busted myself up so bad. Like my elbow was like nearly broken. My left knee was dislocated. Like I'd knocked a little piece of my collarbone, and I'm about to go do 10 days tour. You know, the day before it happens. Well, I still did the tour though. But yeah, the pain is too much now. I'd rather watch it now. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah. Anyway, little side note.
Yeah. One thing I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, since we talked about this before, and I thought this was just a banger nugget, is when we were talking and reminiscing about the good old days of like the peak of the techstep, that type of era of drum and bass. One of the things I was saying, I mean, I can see this in the early TeeBee music, is when people had those really old hardware machines, first of all, they weren't designed for drum and bass, obviously. And then secondly, because everyone was just getting sometimes the same machine, sometimes different ones, sometimes new ones, when people would come out with something in the music, you weren't just thinking about it because of the music. You were thinking, how the fuck did they do that? Like, how did they make that resample? How did they get that sound out of that? How did they make it sound like a synth when it's this thing over here? Back then, I'm assuming you had it. You were telling me a story. Everyone must have had their own little secret shit that you figure out yourself, but you don't just tell everyone it, because that's kind of like your little advantage, right? So your little edge on everyone.
Absolutely, 100%. And it was like at any given time especially in the 90s, there was always someone that was regarded as like the top guy, you know, like when it came to the technicality and the manipulation of sound through, you know, technology has always been at the forefront of our music. And that's also was a large part of the allure for me, was that, because it brings another dimension to it that isn't just about stringing harmonies together, right? And optical, for the longest time, used to be the guy, right? And if no one's familiar with dubplate culture, basically drum and bass, in order to play out things that were unreleased, before the days of CDs, we had to go to a cutting house and basically cut a dub plate, which is a one-time cut acetate on a 10-inch metal piece, usually from places that do dub and reggae, because that was a large part of dub culture, dub plates. And that's the only way you could test your music out. And what happened was that music house became this youth club, in a sense, of like where you'd go to hear what's going on. It was like the pulse of the music, because that's where you'd hear things that was never ever, you know, some might never come out, some might be in its early stages. It's like, that's the ultimate moment of your hearing and testing ground. And everyone was there. And it was not, you couldn't book in a time, nothing. It was ghetto as fuck. It was cash only. It was in a rough neighborhood. It was all kinds of dangerous. And it was amazing. And I remember every time Optical was there, because, you know, he wasn't really, he was always fucking stoned, but he was like, back then he was a man of few words. He's eased up a lot in his older days. He's now insanely, like, he's like a cuddly bear now.
Okay. But
back then, like, Optical was like exuberating a certain sort of moody dominance.
Okay.
And I loved that. And it was basically, he never had something good to say about a tune. He just pointed out what was wrong with it. And I remember Fresh just looked at him, because he's cutting one of the new things he's done from Bad Company back then. He's not saying much. And then he says one little technical thing about how the snare needs to be different. And I remember Dan, Fresh, kind of just folded his hands like a monk would do. And he said, "Yes, Sensei." And that's kind of how it was. Like, you were, Optical was like, you knew he was going to critique you, but he was going to have something to say from a technical aspect. And that made me think back then, and it's taught me a valuable lesson, and it's something I've stuck to ever since. You cannot discuss taste at all. So, like, whether someone likes it or not, or it aligns with them, is out of your control. but you can control the execution. You can really get the execution down to the way that you want it to be, as truthful as you want, if you have the knowledge to do it. That's the only way you can safeguard yourself with music, because whether someone likes it or not, that's entirely up to them. I mean, unless you design it a certain way. And that is like, yeah, that's what I've always come back to. And that's Optical's fault, because he would never critique the track. He would only critique the execution. And I thought that was like pretty special to be around at the time. And yeah, if it hadn't been for that community as well, that like made me really belong. And especially if I had something other people want to cut, then that opens up, and we used to trade music back and forth. Yeah, magical times, mate.
And this, I'm assuming, is also part of what led you on this crazy quest to just collect hardware and always be looking for the next thing that you can do something with that hasn't been done before. I mean, you said it earlier. People say that thing of like, everything's been done. Every melody's been done. It's like, nah, mate, the things that can be done with some of this tech, the point is that you have to completely think outside the box. I mean, you have to do something the guy designing it never thought of.
Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to unlearn, like, your patterns, because you will automatically deviate back to the pattern that your brain deems is most suitable for this task. And a lot of it is automation. So if you don't know how to observe your own thinking or your own ways, then you will largely get stuck in a certain place. And I think that it's one thing, everyone's software now, because, it's easy and accessible and sounds great. And you got options that you never would have had. But what set us apart is when you invest in something that's cost a substantial amount of money, you're not just going to let it sit there if you're passionate about it.
It's a commitment, right?
Super excited that you got it, and you're going to form a friendship with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm looking at my units right in front of me now, and it's like this 3-band IGS multi-core, compressor. It's like I look at it and I feel a certain way. And it's because I know what a good friend it's been, And I know that the tasks that me and that thing have solved together through trial and error. And it never fails me. Doesn't need a software update. Never turned on. It looks as good and sound as good now as it did when I first got it 15 years ago. And I'm still not realizing its potential. There's one little machine that sits here in my studio, and I have about 50 of them. And I feel the same way about each one of them. And when I put those things in a certain order, when I started understanding how different op amps operate, the anomalies that you have in the analog world that can be a disadvantage at times, but if you know how to use it, can be an advantage. And I'm like, I have everything everyone else has in my computer. I know all of those things. My individuality comes from the passion of turning the tone into my very liking with instruments that requires a certain respect and time. And it's not for everyone, but it certainly is for me. And I would not know how TeeBee would sound like TeeBee if it wasn't for it. And I've certain things here that, I even have a note on my wall to the right. If the studio's on fire, grab this bit, and it's named pretty certain. Because, there's certain things in my studio.
Oh, right, I see. You can only get so many things, yeah.
Yeah, you just can't get it anymore as well. And the people that have made them are dead. So there's no one that can even fix it. And it's like, there's this German company called Zal. Michael Zal is his name, and he makes the most amazing fucking analog gear. And the reason I got in touch with him is my old label mate, manager, Chris Parkinson, who used to run Subtitles. He, when he sort of left his distribution company, when he knew that, he was kind of looking for other things, and he started working with different audio companies. I got him hooked up with Alex Rosson in LA for the Odyssey headphones company, worked for them for a while. Then he moved into because, I've always been close to the industry people because, I have market value to them. If I say that this speaker's great, they're going to sell some speakers.
Sure.
And that's been proven. It's like I am largely responsible that a large part of the drum and bass community are now on head speakers. And when no one knew about them, it's because of how I spoke about them. I wasn't even trying to sell anything. I was just being honest, about how these things have allowed me
to look and sound slightly different due to the engineering, you know. And like when I'm into something, I will get in touch with them, because let's say I hear a track that blows me away, and it rarely happens. When it does, the first thing I do is try and reach the person who's made it. And all I want to say, I want nothing else but like to show my appreciation directly to that person. And, you know, if you know who I am and you know a history of my music, like that is the greatest compliment I can give you, because I just don't bullshit when it comes to it. I don't lie to myself when it comes to what I like, and I might not like what everyone else is liking, but when I do, it's always profound for me. And a lot of my great friendships have come out of randomly hitting up people like that. And the same thing goes for the audio world. Like when I get a piece of equipment that can make me do what I love better, that's going to create some sort of fulfillment in me, that I would like to show appreciation to the people that put hard work into doing this, that allows me to be surgical about it. On that journey, I didn't realize that the people behind Head was also the people who in their time started Adam, which is one of the biggest sort of pro audio manufacturers of the world, and also Eve, which when they left Adam, they started another company, which again, they use air transformer, like their treble system basically goes to 50K, which, you know, human hearing stuff's like 70K on a good day. But due to the openness of the treble in those speakers, it allows you to approach certain areas of the mix with a different viewpoint than you would do on any other equipment. So that led to me meeting the guy who built them, which is an absolute fucking legend and a rock star. And he's in his 80s now, but the way he understands sound, you know, it's his son that runs the company at the moment. But so these speakers are his last assign. He's like retired now. He's in the 80s somewhere. But to have the conversations with someone like that, where I'm actually sitting 30 years something deep into music production, I'm probably understanding 15% of what he's saying.
Sure.
And
this guy sounds like a wizard, mate. It sounds amazing.
Oh, he is, mate. Like a whole nother level. And it's like, in that moment, I'm right back to getting that record that we talked about. How the fuck did they do this?
Right.
You know? And I'd never thought I'd have that again. And it just showed, and it's just, it's one of those moments where it's so profound to me that you know, I just can't put, I can't put, that's the shit that drives me forward.
Put it this way, one thing about you is,
allows me to really dig in, because they put an effort into one area of music making that, you know, that would require all of my time.
But one thing we're getting to here is you aren't just someone who's into music or drum and bass. It's actually audio that you're into as well. Like I notice actually a massive fascination of you is the mixdown. Like one of the main areas you will even jokingly be critical of other drum and bass artists is they might be really good, but they just obviously fucking just fall in the mixdown. They just put it, you know, they bang it together quickly. It sounds good. They send it out. You're someone who, I mean, you love the term. You're surgical about that, right? You really care about creating the right area, not having things blur and putting the space between things and filling out the whole headroom, etc.
The thing is, you never get a second chance for a first impression. So if someone listens to your music and there's something sloppy about the execution, like you're going to lose someone, you know, or you know, sometimes that's actually what makes a track, but then it's deliberate, so it's clever. It's so important to me because, you know, like what I've done as well, like what most people don't know, in 2007, I held a lecture at Yale University about sound and how to manipulate the brain with it. And ultimately, like my interest in sound, and this is how I got Rob Swire from Pendulum and Knife Party talking, because, you know, he's notoriously quiet. And that's how I got him out of the shell. Like before Pendulum was anything, I was in Perth and I got a phone call from this local DJ that I knew saying there's these two guys, you really should meet them. And yeah, fuck it, I did, and I invited them to a hotel room. It was Gareth and Rob Swire from Pendulum, and Gareth did all the talking. Rob didn't say nothing, just sat in the background, and they played me a couple of tracks, and I was like, yeah, these are good. And then the third one came on, I was like, oh shit. How do I contain my excitement and uphold some sort of like integrity in this moment? because I lost my shit. And I didn't expect it because there's two unknown guys from Australia I've never heard of. And that's the track that turned out to be Vault on Doc Scott's 31 label. And it was one of the biggest records at the time when it came out. It changed everything because they sounded so much louder, so much cleaner, crispier than any drum and bass record. And that's the moment our entire scene got divided. And that's when we started focusing on really what can be done sonically. Because again, it took someone outside of it with a come from a different background. You know, we came from like punk rock, like rock, and like really like a different sort of density in production. And plus, you know, he's on the spectrum, so he pays attention to the details. And that's when a lot of the first generation artists, because of what became the benchmark in terms of sonic accuracy, became a science project. And for a lot of these kids who were just bashing samples together over braids and trying to catch a vibe, like that just wasn't good enough anymore. And it became this massive internal debate that no one really got exposed to about how they'd ruined it, how Pendulum ruined it. And now it's only become about that. And it was to the point where I remember at the end, again, bringing us back to that famous place, these old, like these old Generation 1 kids, not old, but like Generation 1 kids from Jungle, was like having it out, like trying to fucking intimidate Al Hornet, like you know, but basically saying, you know, Pendulum's running us out of business, like we don't like this. You know, that's not what the music was about, not even the expression. And you know, that just goes to show how, if you look at hip hop, you look at the first generation, you know, the Big Daddy Kanes, whatever, the Grandmaster Flash, the first DJs, all of that shit. And it's like the reality with every culture that is thriving on progression is that you have the creators, you know, to set the sort of framework of what it is. Then you have second generation that kind of creates awareness around it. And then you have third generation, and that's usually who cashes in and makes it popular. So, you know, like up until the late 90s, no one in hip hop was really making money. But then, you know, certain people put it in a certain frame and it became pop music and it blew the fuck up. And some of it was credible and great. But that's what I mean, that doesn't stop the first generation from moaning.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And I think that's very important to remind yourself of, that just because something changes, that doesn't mean that your perception of it has to change. And if you're involved in it on a level where you're making it, to do what everyone else is doing is fucking lame. So if someone does something cool, don't jump on it unless you really want to try your own take on it. But learn from it and like let yourself be inspired by it. There's nothing worse to me than trying to go through promos, which by the way I've stopped doing. Because what happened last time was I had 100 something unheard promos. And I just downloaded everything and I put it in a playlist and I put it on shuffle. And so the next couple of days I'm going to listen just random in the background. And I couldn't spot a single fucking artist. Everything sounded the same.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? And going through and it's like names I know and it's like what the fuck? And then it's just, yeah, it's like the desperation to stay relevant outlives your integrity for most of these people who try to play the game. So I can't respect that because, you know, and you know, that's probably why my phone's not ringing anymore either, because I'll tell you, you know, like if you send me some fucking shit that I think you've diluted or you're not trying your best, I'm going to tell you. And it's incredible how few people can handle that.
Absolutely. Right, okay, obviously, I know what we should do here. We said it at the end of the first interview. It's just it took 10 years, but we'll do a part 3 at some point in time, I've no doubt.
Of course.
So how about this? What note do you want to leave people on?
Right, that's a good one. 2 things. This first one is for the dads. And, you know, just a reminder, be the person you needed when you were young. The second is nothing worth having comes easy. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. If it falls in your lap, you're not gonna cherish it. And there's nothing more beautiful than overcoming what you think is your own shortcomings, as long as you move from your highest truth and you move on your passion. And I kind of wanted to make it unrelated to music because, that's what I do every day. But I do like the construct that I have at the bottom of it that drives me forward.
Manga attack.
Yeah, man.
The majority of my time is, of course, taken up with my endeavours within the esports field on my main channel and on LFN. So I very much appreciate the people who support my side channel where I explore my other interests. Those people on this episode being Rob and So Big It Hurts. Would you like to choose a topic for upcoming content I create here? Maybe you'd like to ask me a question that I'll answer in depth in a video. Would you like to have teasers for upcoming guests in my Thorinquiry interview series? Perhaps you'd like to take part in a private, never to be released, recorded conversation. If any of these perks tickle your fancy, access them via the Patreon link in the description box below and get on Thorin's side.